Good morning, everyone.
Good
How are you
morning.
this morning, Judge Plan?
I'm good. Someone started saying good morning, so good to see everyone.
Well, thanks for having me this morning. I'll be speaking on behalf of Judge Hervey until she gets here.
I'll go ahead and handle the script until she's here, or Judge McClure.
Okay, that's fine. She asked me to speak for her, but if that's what you prefer.
We'll give everybody one more minute and then we'll get started. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our February meeting of the JCMH. I'm delighted to have so many people attending online this morning. And we're really looking forward to May when we will, fingers crossed, have an in-person meeting. It appears that Omicron is on the wane and, really continuing to hope that we can all get together in person because as we all know, it's not the same on Zoom, but we can get a lot done, a lot of good work done today and check in with each other about what's happening in your communities. So today we're going to focus a little bit on our goals for 2022, which are mainly to focus on preparing for the next legislative session, to talk about some of the educational opportunities that are out there and JCMH publications, and to talk about a formal technical assistance program that we are planning to add to the JCMH's bucket of offerings for people who are working in this area. You should have received an electronic version of the notebook that has the meeting agenda and the tabs that go with each discussion item. And I think we're going to also put it in the chat. So if you didn't get a chance to look at that, or if you didn't get the email, hopefully it'll be in the chat and you can pull it up there. So we're going to work today to update everyone on the goals of the JCMH and to get input from all of you about what's going on in your communities. And our long range planning committee is working on developing our long range plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And I know that they are listening intently to map out some, and we use that word map all the time, don't we? But map out some goals for our group, both short term and longer term, both concrete and more aspirational. And the information that you bring to us in these meetings helps them determine what it is our group would like to work on. So, and I am going to go ahead and give a few more announcements. Judge Barbara Hervey, who, you know, is founder of this group and extremely dedicated, is running just a little bit late this morning, but she is going to be here. I'm going to start out by introducing the 2 deputy liaisons that have been appointed by the 2 courts to also work on JCMH. And I think we mentioned both of their appointments at our last meeting, but they're here today, and I was going to give them an opportunity to say hello.
Jane, I am here.
Good. Why don't you take over now? Good morning.
Oh, you're doing such a great job.
No. I'd much rather you do it. Go.
Right. Well, first I apologize for running a little late, but the traffic from San Antonio this morning was a joke. So it took me a little longer than expected. But as Justice Bland was telling you, we have 2 wonderful deputy liaisons, one from each court. And I just want to tell you a little bit about them. Rebecca Huddle was appointed to the Supreme Court in October of 2020. And before her appointment to the court, Justice Huddle served as a justice on the First Court of Appeals in Houston for 6 years. She was also a partner in Baker Botts, where she practiced commercial litigation and appeals, and served as the firm's partner in charge of the Houston office beginning in 2018. Please, welcome her when you see her. You'll see her on there. And next, my colleague, Judge Jesse McClure III of Kingwood, was appointed to our court in 2020. He previously served as the judge of the 339th Judicial District Court in Harris County, as a prosecutor for the Texas Department of Insurance, as an attorney for the Department of, where are we now? Homeland Security, and as an assistant district attorney for the Tarrant County District Attorney's Office. And you will welcome him. I'm sure you can maybe find his cute face. And next, but not least, Megan Lavoie is our new Administrative Director of the Office of Court Administration. In this position, she will also serve as the Executive Director of the Texas Judicial Council, the policymaking body for the judiciary. Megan assumed this role in December of 2021. Previously, she was the longtime Director of Public Affairs and Special Counsel for OCA, and is a respected administrator and effective advocate for the justice system. And we'll all welcome Megan. I've known Megan a long time. She has worked with the legislature, and she's a great addition to that office in that position. In our last commission meeting, we said a congratulatory goodbye to Mike Maples as he went into retirement. Today, I'd also like to welcome the new JCMH Commissioner, Timothy Bray. He is the Associate Commissioner of State Hospitals at HHSC, where he oversees the state's 9 psychiatric hospitals and 1 youth psychiatric facility. The state hospital care for over 2,000 Texans on any given day and employ more than 8,000 professionals. Ooh, big job. Previously, Mr. Bray served as the Deputy General Counsel for Government Law at the Department of State Health Services. Before pursuing a legal career, Mr. Bray provided emergency mental health services in New Hampshire through a community mental health center, 2 regional hospitals, and 1 county jail. He holds a Master of Arts in Counseling, Psychology, and a law degree. And please welcome Mr. Bray to the commission. Okay, back to you.
Okay, back to me. And we have also some new members of the Collaborative Council. If you get a chance to reach out to them if they're in your community. The first is Dr. Diana Cantu, who's the CEO of Texoma Community Centers in Sherman. And she has made collaboration with law enforcement a top priority. And of course, that's one of the important intercepts that many of the commission members work on. So welcome to Dr. Cantu. Kathleen Casey Gamez is Senior Policy Analyst at the Texas Indigent Defense Commission. And of course, she also previously worked to implement indigent defense reform in Indiana. So welcome to Texas. We're so looking forward to hearing your ideas. And we have had tremendous luck with people who've come to Texas, have worked on these policy issues in other states, and are helping us to improve ours there. So welcome, Kathleen. Colleen Davis is an assistant county attorney in Burnett County, where she oversees misdemeanor cases, juvenile cases, protective orders, and appeals. Chief Zachary Flores is the chief of police for the city of Sherman, and has dedicated significant resources to both internal and external mental health needs in the community and in the department itself. And we can always use the resources that our police chiefs bring to this commission in terms of understanding the problems that law enforcement face, and also really kind of teaching us more about how we can improve encounters with those that are having mental health crises before they even get to the court system. So welcome, Chief Flores. Judge James Henderson is judge of the Grayson County Court at Law number 1 since 2003. And welcome, Judge Henderson. Dr. Charles Mathias is an associate professor of psychiatry at UT Health in San Antonio, the Long School of Medicine. His research focuses on biological, behavioral, and personality mechanisms involved in initiating harmful behaviors like aggression, addiction, and suicide. So sort of that preventative medicine idea. Jennifer Toon is a criminal justice and mental health advocate at the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities. And she works in particular on early childhood mental health and school discipline. And Jennifer, welcome, and we're really glad to have you. And our work we have several commission members who have been working hard to improve resources and collaboration, in particular for juveniles with mental health crises. And so glad you're here. Judge Grace Uzamba comes from Bexar County Court at Law number 2. Judge Uzamba is a U.S. Army veteran with extensive experience in treatment courts, including Veterans Court, Drug Court, and DWI Court. We already have such a great group of judges from Bexar County, including Judge Hervey, of course, who's originally from Bexar County. So we're really glad to have another judge come to us from there. Thank you for joining. And then as we added collaborative council members, we also have added a new commission staff member, and Rose McBride is that person. She joined us last November. She is our communications manager, and you're going to hear from her today. Her background is in broadcast journalism. She worked in television in Wisconsin and Kentucky. She has a bachelor's from Northwestern University, where she was an Evans Scholar. And so we are really delighted that she is joining us and adding lots of new ideas and helping us to make our offerings, training, and collaboration more accessible by communicating it better to all and through lots of sources. So if you get a chance to reach out in the chat, if you know any of these people or would like to make contact with them, and just to extend your appreciation for them being willing to work with us. The Collaborative Council is going to meet 3 times this year. The next meeting is March 1st. Justice Huddle is going to lead that meeting for us, and we hope you can join us. And now, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started with our Executive Director's report. And I know they've put the agenda in the chat, and under tab 1 of the meeting notebook is where you'll find it. And we'll plan to take a break around just before 10 o'clock. And after that, after the 10 o'clock break, we're going to ask commission members who would like to give their announcements and let us know what's going on in your community. Christy sent out an email sort of prompting with a thought about what you might want to share with us today. And so now, Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you unless I forgot something, in which case you can remind me.
No, perfect. Thank you, Justice Flynn. Okay, so we're going to turn to tab 4 is the report to the commission. This is where our staff puts together updates on the many projects that we're doing so that you can know what's going on in the committees you're not working on. And hopefully it will spur interest for a project that you might want to get involved in. We will hear today from our JCMH staff. We are bringing them in next to talk about some various programs they're involved in. And we included our strategic plan again under tab 5. Justice Bland mentioned that the long-term planning committee is looking at drafting a new strategic plan. And, that's a lengthy process, but they will work on a draft. It will go through the executive committee, and it will eventually be approved by the entire commission. So there will be many opportunities for you to weigh in on how that should look, how we should shape up our work for the next several years. And as you know, we offer grants. We have some court improvement grants, we've had technology grants, and we've had some bigger grant projects. And Patrick Passmore, our grants administrator, is going to give us a report on our financial updates.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning, everyone. So we're back in tab 6 here of our commission meeting notebook. You'll find our current budget. You want to go ahead and flip there. We currently are on track to meet our budget that we created at the beginning of this fiscal year. We're currently budgeted at $1.157 million to operate and provide the trainings and programs that the JCMH has identified for FY 2022. We do anticipate carrying forward into FY 2023 approximately 92,000 as of now. This is just going to add to our budget in FY 2023. The JCMH did receive UB authority from the legislature, allowing us to carry those funds forward to be used within this biennium. And that's really going to be it for our budget. I'm going to move now over to tab 10. And these are going to be our summaries of the grants that we had reported on for some in FY 20 and those in FY 2021. These are going to be the summaries of the reports that we received. The FY 2020 grants are showing up here again because I'm sure all of you can remember what we've been going through, and a lot of those grants and programs that we had planned for in 2020 were unable to be conducted due to COVID. So we allowed those grantees to move those funds forward into FY 2021 and continue to report on them. I'm not going to go through this grant report in detail. I'll allow you all to look at this on your own time. And if you have already and you have questions, I'd be happy to answer any. And if you have a chance to look at it after this meeting and have questions, please feel free to contact me via phone or email, or just reach out to the commission's email inbox. I will cover one of our current grants. It's definitely our largest program that we're working on for this current fiscal year, and that's going to be the Community Diversion Coordinator Pilot Project. Happy to report that it's well underway. And since our last commission meeting, all 3 counties have hired their coordinator, and their training is ongoing. You might also remember that as we discussed this project in the past, we had planned on hiring an evaluator to go in and work with all 3 of the counties, and to measure the success and efficacy of this program. JCMH went through 2 different rounds of requests for qualifications and requests for proposals, and we received many very qualified candidates, and we've narrowed that list down now to 3, and we are currently we're currently reviewing those very carefully to make a decision, and we'll definitely have that news for you at our next commission meeting. Coming up also before the next commission meeting, we'll be having our interim reports for those grants that we currently have outstanding, including interim reports for the Community Diversion Coordinator Pilot Project. That's a tongue twister. So just by the next commission meeting, we'll have some more information for you all on the progress of those programs. And Christy, I think that's going to wrap it up for me, unless I forgot something.
Oh, great. Thank you, Patrick. So the JCMH has been working with the Conference of Chief Justices on a conference that just happened, and one in the spring, and Molly Davis, staff attorney, is going to give us an update on that.
Thank you, Christy. Good morning, everyone. The Conference of Chief Justices mid-year meeting took place on January 16th, 17th, and 18th, and several of our JCMH leaders were invited to give a presentation on the need for and the formation of a statewide judicial commission on mental health. Our deputy liaisons, Justice Huddle and Judge McClure, moderated the panel, which had Justice Bland, Judge Hervey, Christy Taylor, and Commissioners Judge Brent Carr and Judge Dave Jan on it. We were a little disappointed that this meeting was moved online instead of getting to have it in person, but I can say that all of our speakers did a great job making this discussion engaging and informative. Our commission really is an innovative model for other states to follow, and it's groundbreaking too. The Conference of Chief Justices and the Conference of State Court Administrators Southern Region Summit will be held in Austin on April 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Chief Justices and leaders from 13 states are going to attend to learn more about improving the court's response to people with mental health needs. The presentations will include evidence-based practices and effective policies across the sequential intercept model. In addition to teams from Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Puerto Rico, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, and the US Virgin Islands, doesn't that sound good? A team from Texas will attend, and we're excited to see what new initiatives and new ideas are out there. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you, Molly. And Kama Harris is going to give us an update on our Eliminate the Wait initiative.
Thank you, Christy, and good morning, everyone. At last year's summit, we launched an initiative with HHSC called Eliminate the Wait. And this initiative aims to provide practical ideas to alleviate the inpatient competency restoration services waiting list in Texas with a toolkit that sets out comprehensive and integrated approaches to right-sizing competency restoration services in Texas. The theory behind this toolkit is that we all have a role to play to eliminate the wait. And Rose McBride is showing the toolkit on your screen. We've developed these role-specific checklists for each profession at the intersection of mental health and criminal justice, with tips and suggestions that were vetted by each of our stakeholder groups. This initiative asks that each stakeholder group use their combined efforts to change how Texas serves people at the intersection of mental health and criminal justice. The toolkit is available on the JCMH website, and we're currently working on expanding this toolkit to support other stakeholder groups. The next steps for Eliminate the Wait are to directly assist counties in implementing the checklist through our technical assistance program. Additionally, Christy Taylor and Dr. Jenny Simpson from HHSC have been broadening the reach of this initiative by speaking at conferences. In December of last year, they introduced Eliminate the Wait to a nationwide audience at SAMHSA's Gain Center, which the conference was entitled A Review of the Work, States' Efforts to Improve Competency to Stand Trial and Competence Restoration Processes. The summit presentation recording on Eliminate the Wait is also available on the JCMH website. Thanks, Christy.
All right, thank you, Kama. Moving on, our new communications director, Rose McBride, is going to show you our awesome new website and a few details from that.
Thank you, Christy. I'm excited to be here with all of you this morning. So we have a brand new website that we're really excited about that our program manager, Liz Wiggins, and I have been working on. And I want to give Liz a shout out. She did a lot of awesome work with OCA before I arrived here and spent a lot of time on this. So thank you so much to Liz. This is an overview of our new website. It's a lot easier to navigate than our old website. There are lists at the top of different categories and drop-down menus below. So for example, if you wanted to go back to look at past summits and see the resources and tools there, perhaps a presentation that you wanted to revisit, we have all of those, as well as our publications, our bench books, our code book, bench cards. We have PDFs available of all of those. We have a few new categories, one being technical assistance and the innovations map, which are some awesome new projects that Christy is going to talk about in just a bit. Grants, any information about that, what Patrick spoke on earlier, as well as this new news category. Anytime JCMH has been featured in the news, we have those articles listed here, as well as this new section called Meet Our Members, which we just started. So this is called Beyond the Bio, and we've been talking to different commissioners and collaborative council members to find out why you all do what you do and why you're passionate about this work. Our inaugural interview was with NAMI Texas Executive Director Greg Hanch, who's been a collaborative council member since the very beginning. So you can read his interview up now. And we have an interview with Judge Brent Carr that is going to be going up in the next couple of days. And if you have anyone that you would like to feature, or if you would like to be featured, you can send me an email and I will share my email at the end. And I'd also like to share just a little bit about our overall communications plan with you. One of my goals in this role is to share the work of the commission and identify any resources and training opportunities for commission stakeholders through a couple of different means, one being social media, earned media, which are things like publications, TV stations, radio stations, and targeted communications. So right now, let me bring up another screen for you, if I can find it. Yes, this is our a map here. It's not popping out for me. One moment. I apologize. Well, we have a map of that once I find it, I will show you. A map of commissioners and collaborative council members where everyone works. And this map shows kind of a smaller range of where people are. And there are a lot of gaps in a lot of counties that we're not reaching. And we're hoping to change that through different types of communications. So one of those methods of communications is through earned media. So we sent out a press release about Eliminate the Wait and our initiative to different newspapers and TV stations throughout the state. And we had an interest from a number of outlets. TV stations in Austin, Tyler, and College stations all ran stories about Eliminate the Wait, as well as newspapers in Runnels County and Waxahachie. And Christy did a podcast with a statewide defense attorney to attorneys, and their audience is defense attorneys throughout the state. And you can check those all out on the news section of our website. And we're still starting to develop these relationships, but I already consider it a success, especially because these two newspapers are both based in counties where we didn't have any summit attendees or any commissioners or collaborative council members. So we're already broadening our reach and giving these tools to people in an area that might not know much about what is out there. Let me try to bring back up this. Oh, thank you so much to, I believe that's Kema that's sharing. So as I was kind of explaining, this is a list of where everyone who attended our summit is from. And you can kind of see by the heat map where we had the most people in the areas coming from. And so with this new communication plan, we're hoping to just reach people in some of these counties that we're not reaching right now. Because Texas is a big state, as we all know, and we're a small team. And so it's impossible for our team to physically reach all of these places on a day-to-day basis. But we want to be able to share what our stakeholders are doing. There we go. I'm so sorry here. I will share my presentation now. So this is also where all of you work. As I was kind of explaining, a lot of you have a statewide influence. So you know people in different parts of the state that we might not be reaching. And so we'd like to bring up our social media plan as well. These are all of our channels, and we're hoping to be able to reach people in different areas through these channels that we might not be reaching right now. So we have a Facebook, a Twitter, a LinkedIn, and then that's my email address as well. So we'll ask that you follow us on these platforms and also share any relevant content that we are putting out with your colleagues who might benefit from us or from that content. And we also ask that you share with us so then we can then share that with our wider audience. So that could be things that your communities are doing to further our mission. Like we asked today that you bring some innovations happening in your counties. And so that could be something that we like to share that other people could benefit from as well. And we also want to hear about your successes, things that are going right in your counties, anything that you think other people could really benefit from. So that's a list of all of our channels. Thank you to those of you who already follow us. I see some familiar names that like our content and share it. So thank you to those of you who are already doing that. And with that, I will turn it back over to Christy.
Thank you, Rose. I love that map that you made. I think it really focuses our attention that there are a lot of white spaces on that map where we know no one. They may not, they may be reinventing the wheel, right? They may not know that there's a bench book and that we have forms and we have, all sorts of tools to help them. So it's new for me to be into social media, but I do see that it is, it's a way to communicate our message. Okay, 2 points I wanted to go into a little bit more. On our website, let me see if I can share screen. On our website, we've talked about this in the past, but the innovation map is up and running. And so you guys, we talked about it. You told me that if we built it, that you would come, and it's built. So we have 2 main strategies to try to complete this map. So this map right now is a shell. It is an organizational tool where each of the counties can find the information they need. So we're going to look at Williamson County was the one we started filling out because that's where we had the summit. And so you see these sort of titles that will help a community organize what they're doing and break it down even further. And there's opportunities to put in a plug for whatever you're doing, to put a link in there, a short description. And so our 2 main strategies are that we want to reach out to the counties. We want to work with the LMHAs, with county judges. If you are in a county and you know there's a champion that would really love this tool, please contact us, let us know, and we will reach out to them. And our second strategy is that we have a team, and that we're going to build it out a little bit more with some folks doing data entry on this side. So if this is too much to take on, I can imagine it's a big job for some of the larger counties, especially, then we could do it in bits and pieces. So for example, Judge Hervey's document, the Mental Health Resource Guide, right now we are inputting all of that information into this website. It was the inspiration for it. And it will just be another way that you can access that. And also any of the innovations y'all mentioned today, we're going to take notes, we're going to write it down, and we're going to try to include that. Okay, and then if you go back out of this and back to our main website, under technical assistance, just wanted to talk a little bit about this. You may remember in 2019 at the summit, we asked a lot of you if you had something you would want to mentor in, and if there was something you needed a contact with. Well, we're going to go back and collect all those great statements that you made and the requests that you made, and start contacting you to create that mentorship base. And we want to make sure that this isn't a huge time constraint, that this could be limited to 1 phone call, maybe 3 phone calls, but that we're going to define that so that we're not connecting you with someone that's going to be your new best friend that calls you every single day, because we know that you're all really busy. So we are going to have that expert consultation connection. So it may be that HHSC is the best to answer that question, or Takumi, and we would connect you with the right person there. We'll have the mentorship. And we also will be creating an education library that we're just starting. And then the last piece on this is our sequential intercept mapping. You've heard a little bit about this. We trained people in 2019. We just trained a new batch of facilitators in December who are excited to do mappings. And so we created a very short video to try to explain what this is. And I think Rose is going to play that for us. And it's just a few minutes to help explain what it is. If the community is interested, it's free. It is it's free, and it's free through us and also HHSC, and it's flexible. We could do a focus just on legal processes. If you are saying our 1622 process is not where it should be, we could come in and look at that. We could look at competency restoration. Or if you're saying collaboration is really the need in our community, we can do a 0 to 5 look where we do a high level look at how people are talking to each other, how communication flows, and how people flow through the system. So because of COVID, all of the mappings we had already scheduled have been postponed. So you may recognize some staff faces in our mock workshops in the video, but it was just a first attempt at using media to explain this concept. Okay.
Williamson County is the 12th fastest growing county in Texas. It is a suburban county to Travis County, to Austin area in particular. Williamson County is known for excellent schools, for beautiful areas, for progressive systems. Williamson County is excellent at looking at resources available and expending the resources where they should be in place. It started out just wanting to get the partners together. We had planned this sequential intercept mapping, and when it happened at a point of a dramatic announcement that our crisis intervention team would be ending that week, that the SIM mapping was occurring.
A sequential intercept mapping workshop is a strategic planning tool where we bring community leaders together and they study how a person in their community moves through the criminal justice system when they have mental illness or intellectual disability. The goal of one of these workshops is to identify resources, gaps, and you create new partnerships that allow the community to divert individuals away from the criminal justice system when it's possible.
All of our focused efforts were identifying how do we help and how do we make sure that training is there, how do we continually communicate, and how do we make sure there's no wrong door. So not only did we have in our minds that we wanted to build the intercept mapping in Williamson County, we had this huge gap that was about to occur, and we were scrambling trying to figure out how to, number one, educate law enforcement officers who had never had to take crisis intervention, and how do each of us respond to those needs.
We'll start working several months in advance of the workshop with the community. That way we can help them ensure that the right people get to the workshop. We want people from all levels of the Intercept, including law enforcement, local mental health authority representatives, as well as people from the courts, people with lived experience, and other agencies as well. These workshops are a day and a half, and on the first day, we're going to focus on making a map of the local system as well as identifying the shared priorities in the community. On the second day, we're going to focus on creating a community action plan. That plan is going to focus on the strengths and the available resources, as well as identifying what next steps the community can take.
So it's really helpful that we actually map out a visual representation of that community system, and it allows everyone to see their part in the big picture. The ultimate goal for the workshop is to create a strategic plan that is concrete and allows the community to know what are our next steps to improving our system for people with mental illness.
After the workshop, JCMH is going to provide the community with a report. That report is going to include information about the local system map, the gaps and opportunities, community priorities for change, a specific action plan, and recommendations from JCMH. The report can also identify and shape the type of technical assistance that's going to be needed by the community following the workshop.
We have benefited in so many ways from the sequential intercept mapping, and it just starts a conversation. We were able to really kind of develop a system that was activating a mobile crisis outreach team quicker, for more partnership in the community, to see that person one-on-one, just by willingness to recognize, no, we're not perfect. Tell us how we can improve. I think that was also another common thread that was beneficial throughout the SIM. We all recognize we're human. We recognize we're facing a crisis. And we were able to come together understanding what's available, because we were able to map it on the map about currently this is where we are and this is what we're hoping to achieve.
Well, great. Thank you, Rose, for that video. And Dr. Almeida had asked in the chat if we could share that. We'll put it on our website and we'll make it shareable. And we have to laugh because, you know, you recognize a lot of faces. We even had the troopers who protect the high courts participating in our conference room, pretending to be, you know, in a mapping. So it was a great effort. Thank you, Rose, for putting that together. Okay, so we're finished with our report. We're going to hear from our committees, and I think Judge Hervey is going to lead us through that.
Thank you, Christy. The commission currently has 7 committees that inform and advise the work that we do. Committee work is an opportunity to use your knowledge and skills in connection with multidisciplinary partners to further the goals of the commission. We will start with Judge Camille DeBose, who is the chair of the Bench Book Committee.
Thank you, Judge Hervey. Due to the hard work of the committee members and JCMH staff, the 3rd edition of the Bench Book debuted in October at the summit. It now includes chapters on intercepts 4 and 5, as well as sections on risk assessments, insanity, expunsions, and non-disclosures. We distributed the entire 500-copy original print run and secured a grant from the Court of Criminal Appeals to order 400 more to meet the outstanding demand. I'm also happy to announce that the digital version of the Bench Book will be available in March on the JCMH website and on the Lawbox app, which you can get in the Apple Store or the Android Google Play Store. That'll enable you to access and search the Bench Books from your phone or your tablet. And I also want to give a shout out to that SIM and intercept planning and mapping. That is an outstanding tool, and I intend to bring that back to Uvalde County. I would now like to introduce my colleague, Judge Cindy Wheelis, who is chair of the Juvenile Bench Book Committee. Thanks.
I just want to thank everyone who was involved in the Juvenile Bench Book, and I cannot be taking any claim to any credit. I have all of my credit to Molly Davis, who always kept us on task, who was very outside the box thinking about how we can creatively and positively address different subjective decision points for each of the intercepts. and was always willing to put some texture and some compassion and appeal to compassion and equity and all those things. And so we have our second, which was announced at the summit, which was also fantastic. I cannot believe what this commission has pulled off in such a short time of its life. So my hat is off to all of the people who worked on the juvenile bench book, and we are getting rave reviews from the juvenile community, all from law enforcement to judges. So thank you all for this commission and its support.
All right, so I guess this is Judge Carr. I guess I'm up. I'd like to first reference Molly Davis, her report where she mentioned the Virgin Islands, and I would like to propose a fact-finding mission of the commission to the Virgin Islands to see how they handle their mental health matters. I'm sure it would do us all very well. But aside from that, keeping it more local. So we had the summit last year, which was an incredibly successful event. Over 1,400 people attended in person and online. We had judges from all levels of the judiciary, law enforcement, advocacy groups. I think it's very important to have our advocates, and that includes legal advocates, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. I think we've done a great job, not only in addressing mental health issues, but also including IDD service providers and representatives from local and state agencies and policymakers, people with lived experiences, and many others. In your materials in tab 7, there's a lot more detail about the summit, but I think we should all be proud of the fact that 88% of the attendees rated the summit as excellent or very good, with another 9% rating it as good. Every session was named by some as the person's favorite sessions on the evaluations. The curriculum committee, it was important to the curriculum committee that we offer solutions, and we encouraged all of the presenters to give practical takeaways, the capstone of which was the launch of Eliminate the Wait. We provided over 60 resources to attendees that included bench books, JCMH mental health code book, which I will personally say I use all the time, supporting slides, one-pagers from the presenters, the Eliminate the Wait toolkit, reports, websites, videos. These resources and all of these presentations are currently available on the JCMH website. We are thankful to all of you at this meeting who attended. We hope that you left the summit having learned something new and feeling inspired to continue your work. The words of one speaker in particular reminds us to be bold. You never know when you're going to save a life, and as I think we're all aware that self-harm is certainly in the programs that I run. I'm always on the lookout for that. We've experienced that in the past on self-occasion, and that's just a very important issue. Big news, we are already starting planning the 2022 summit, which for the first time, we will take a road trip up more into my area. It'll be held November 2nd through 4th at the Great Wolf Lodge in Grapevine, Texas. And we will continue to offer the option of watching the summit online, as it remains a popular option with attendees. We have released our calls for proposals, and we encourage you and your friends, colleagues to submit your ideas by the April 1st deadline. The application is on the JCMH website and was distributed at the summit save the date email. And that is my report. And now at this time, I'm happy to recognize and introduce the chair of the Legislative Committee, Justice Bill Boyce, for his report.
Thank you, Judge Carr. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for your participation today. Very brief report on the activities of the Legislative Committee. It has been meeting and now is broken into two subgroups, one focusing on more of the criminal procedure, the other focusing on civil or overlap with civil procedure, with multiple work groups within that. This is covering a range of potential changes or improvements or tweaks to existing law, focusing on several areas with respect to criminal procedures. The subgroup work groups have been looking at the competency restoration process, clarifying the Article 1622 identification and reporting process, and alternatives to arrest for people who are experiencing an acute mental health crisis. With respect to civil law issues, the work groups are looking at a number of topics, including addressing the role of law enforcement when transporting someone who is in crisis to a hospital, researching the feasibility of assistant outpatient treatment grant programs in crisis receiving centers, and also investigating the role of non-law enforcement responses for teams dealing with emergency situations. The rough time frame is that these groups will continue to meet with a target of presenting recommendations for consideration by the Texas Judicial Council in June of this year in the ramp up to the next legislative session. With that, I will turn over the Zoom conference to Judge Jan for his report as chair of the Forums Committee.
And thank you, Justice Boyce, and good morning. I apologize for not being on video today. I'm actually double booked this morning and doing the Texas thing of moving livestock around. But the Forums Committee report is in tab 8. We were tasked with examining common mental health forms with the goal of producing a set of standardized forms that could be used in any county in the state. As you can see, we were able to accomplish that task. Took a little bit longer than anticipated. The forms will soon be available as a forms bank on the JCMH website, and anyone will be able to download and use them. Next, I'd like to introduce Judge John Specia, the JCMH jurist in residence and the chair of the Long-Term Planning Committee.
Thank you, Judge John, and be careful moving those cows around. The Long Range Term Planning Committee met on December 15th and again yesterday, February 9th. We've been charged with developing a new strategic plan for JCMH and are planning on having a day-long in-person meeting to work on this task. We've also divided into subgroups to accomplish our goals. Those are ethics, implicit bias, juvenile justice, mental health courts. Our next meeting will be on April 6th. I also participated in the sequential intercept model facilitators, and I'm looking forward to getting to the technical assistance for all this great stuff we're doing and all these great ideas we're putting out. I also serve as jurist in residence for JCMH, and since our last commission meeting, we have sent 3 more letters in September, December, and January. They are archived on our fancy new website. And you can have access to them. And if you're not getting my letter, just let us know and we will add you to the list. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Connie Almeida, who is chair of the Data Committee. Connie.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge Specia. The Data Committee, as you know, is one of the newest committees, and we've come together to really work in how we can educate stakeholders on the importance of gathering data and hopefully facilitating the the gathering of that data, and how we can use data to improve our processes and eventually the outcomes for those individuals that we're trying to serve, which are individuals with mental illness and intellectual developmental disabilities. So we have actually met twice. We met on September 9th and on January 13th. We had great representation from just so many of you, so I'm very grateful for that. And we've actually divided into two subcommittees, one that's focusing on the 1622 process, which we've talked a lot about, which is that early identification of individuals with mental illness and IDD. And Judge Huff is agreed to chair that subcommittee. And the second subcommittee focuses on competency restoration. And we're working with the Joint Commission on Access and Forensic Services to really look at how we can expand our use of data that they have available, and also the support for their activities. And that will focus again on competency restoration. And that will be chaired by John Petrella, that subcommittee. Our next meeting is on March 10th. Thank you all for your participation. I just wanted to also say I had the opportunity of participating in the SIMS training that was sponsored by the commission, and it was excellent, and really looking forward to expanding this work. And we couldn't do it without the technical support from obviously Christy and her team. So appreciate it. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to Justice Plant. Thank you.
These were some terrific reports by our committee chairs, and thank you to the chairs and to all of you that are really rolling up your sleeves and doing work on these individual committees, because that is really how we accomplish anything, is by dividing and conquering. And we have some great conquerors on these committees. So thank you. Rose said we're a small team in a big state, but it is amazing what Christy and her team have accomplished during the pandemic in terms of facilitating our work and rolling out new ideas. Small team with big ideas and not afraid of hard work. So I know everyone on the commission is very grateful for the work that you guys are doing. And it was really so terrific to hear from each of you today about the new stuff that you've really come up with and how helpful it's going to be. We're going to go ahead and take our morning break, and we're going to come back at 5 after 10. We're just only about 5 minutes late, which is pretty good. And so we'll take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back and we'll start hearing from commissioners. Thank you, guys. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. And as people are gathering back, this is the opportunity for each commissioner to talk about one resource that isn't often thought of as a resource, but you found success with, or a best practice that you'd like to share that you found success with. If you could limit your comments to just a couple of minutes, that way, we'll be able to get through everybody this morning. And because I said I think I was going to do this last time, we're going to start at the back of the alphabet instead of the front. So if you are at the end of the alphabet and thought that you weren't up for an hour or so, guess what? You're up first. And so and I tried to tell Wayne Young in the chat that he was going to go first, but if he's not back yet, we'll see who's after that. Are you here, Wayne?
I am here. I didn't see your heads up, so I'm poorly prepared, but always willing to wing it here. So if you want me to jump in, so I would say one of the things that we found to be particularly impactful in our community, and it's almost unfair because it's a kind of aggregation of several different programs, but we have in our community now created what we often refer to as the Respite Rehab and Reentry Center, which is an aggregation of programs that all have this common intersection of homelessness, serious mental illness, and criminal justice system involvement. And it's been very powerful. And some of them are small programs, but in this larger whole, the campus kind of makes sense and works. And I'm excited that in March, we'll be getting city council, fingers crossed, approval to build 24 apartment complexes with the funding, the remaining of the funding required for that. The state has provided the majority of that funding already for us. And then in terms of underutilized resource, I think one of the things we've been working on in our community, because we do have the luxury of having some local hospital-based competency restoration. We now have jail-based competency restoration. We struggle to find the right fit for the outpatient competency restoration component and how to have that fit within kind of a continuum. And so we've been doing some work on that intentionally, and I think that is getting that utilization up. But historically, it was one that we struggled with a little bit to find just our footing underneath that program.
All right, and April Zamora, I would have started with you, but I wasn't sure you were here, but you are apparently.
I am. My connection is very poor, so I'm trying to keep my camera rolling. I am here. Right now, Tacoma is actually working on a juvenile subcommittee to look at how we can better serve in juvenile detention centers. So that is one of our main pieces of work that we're doing right now. So that is being done through our Tacoma Advisory Committee. I know that we have added quite a few members from HHSC. We've pulled in JJD staff, and we have one of our two of our gubernatorial appointees overseeing that committee. We have a coloring book going out that will help juveniles in that are between the ages of 10 and 13 to be able to walk them through what may be going on while they're in that detention facility and understand what may be going on with them, to be able to articulate their needs. And then also a book, and I say a book, but a short pamphlet to be able to walk the parent through what may be going on as they enter into that facility and how to be able to articulate what those needs would be in communicating with the family courts or with the juvenile probation departments. So that is a lofty goal for us. The goal would be able to have some of those things to bring back to the Tacoma Advisory Committee by June. We hope to have it out earlier. We wanted to have it out by February. Of course, when we had to go back to virtual meetings, it made it a little more difficult. So that's where we're at, and that's to me our biggest project and plan today.
Terrific. And if any of you didn't get a chance to see April's presentation at the summit, it was just terrific. And if this is an area of interest for you, it'd be worth your time to download the video of it, and that's on the JCMH website, because it was really well done and I learned a lot. Okay, Brandon Wood.
Can you hear me? I was trying to make sure that I had my mic on. I think a couple of the items that we're currently working on and trying to ensure that jails are aware that they are available are the additional mental health training classes. One of the newer ones that has been pushed out and was required by the legislature is one dealing with the identification of individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and trying to ensure that jails are aware of the resources that are available and making sure that they're taking advantage of the information that's now provided through the continuity of care query, because previously it was only providing information on individuals that had received mental health services. Now it also is giving returns on individuals that have the designation of IDD. So trying to ensure that the jails are utilizing that information to the best of their ability and getting their staff trained up on it is something that we've rolled out. And first classes probably within the next 2 weeks. And they're actually probably going to be occurring down to South Texas in conjunction with some pre-established suicide prevention and identification training as well. So the information is on the website regarding the training calendar. And I would encourage you to reach out to your sheriffs and jail administrators and get them to contact us and get it scheduled, because we come to them and it is free. So I can't make it any easier than that, other than to offer it online. So get them out there and get them to it.
Terrific. And next, Judge Wheelis.
So sorry, I was kind of out to lunch there for a second. Okay, so my best practice that I have been able to leverage is this very committee justice plan, with the support of the commission being sort of created by the Supreme Court of Texas, as well as the Court of Criminal Appeals of Texas. I have been able to encourage and enlighten other colleagues in other fields, even other states. But I want to say that I have this sort of ace in the hole. It's not quite as good as my colleague, Judge Stacy Matthews County, but it's this coalition of loosely coordinated people who have giant hearts. We have ISD counselors, we have directors, we have superintendents in Collin County, and we have the most wonderful leader who I believe is one of Adrian's little acolytes, Dana Bickford. And we have Amy Poole from the Grant Halliburton Foundation. So it's really just a hodgepodge of us who have big hearts for the hospital systems. I do want to offer that as a best practice, even though we haven't really done the SIM mapping yet. I think that we're on the verge of offering that, because I've benefited from the JCMH SIM mapping as well. So that's what I would say is a underutilized resource, is just a sort of casual gathering of a coalition.
Terrific. And I know Judge Matthews, you wanted to go ahead and go. And since Judge Wheelis mentioned you, gave you a shout out, let's put you now.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Justice Bland. And thank you, Judge Wheelis. She does way more than I do. So she's very humble. So kind of to piggyback on that, you know, the commission is really given us an opportunity. We're very fortunate because we're close to Austin, and y'all have done such great work, and we're usually able to bring a lot of people to the summits. And I really appreciate that. And I just kind of want to share a few things that we've done, and I can take no credit for any of this. As Judge Wheelis mentioned, Williamson County has the best people, the biggest hearts working there. So I'm going to do more of kind of a focus with juvenile, because we've made some really big changes over the last couple of years, or added some additional things. And I have to give a shout out to our LMHA, Andrea Richardson. She was in that video. She's probably not on this meeting, but she's amazing. She's the executive director of Bluebonnet Trails. And she's been working really closely with our county. And when we started that SIMS model, I don't know, what was that, 18 or 19, that has just helped us be able to take off. So anyone that hasn't done SIMS mapping in your communities, I would encourage you to do it, because from there, we've just had all these partnerships. So a couple of things that are new. Bluebonnet Trails actually gave up some of their administrative offices, worked in partnership with the county. They got some CARES and ARPA funds, and they now have a drop-in center for both juveniles and adults with mental health issues. So we're trying to divert them away from the jail. So that's huge. That in and of itself was huge. In addition to that, we've been able to expand our mental health beds for kids, and that's been huge. I mean, that's always been a struggle for us. And so Bluebonnet Trails is opening up a 16-bed youth respite center, and this is going to help divert kids primarily with family violence cases where we need a break, right? There's been some things going on in the family, but we don't want them in the CPS system, or we don't want them in the juvenile justice system. It's truly a mental health issue, not a criminal or a juvenile type issue. And so that's going to be another way to divert. So it's been great. And Williamson County dedicated a lot of money, our county did, with Rock Springs, which is one of our mental health hospitals, and Bluebonnet Trails. They collaborated. They're going to build a youth acute care behavioral health wing at one of our local mental health hospitals. And so they're splitting the capital costs. They're using some ARPA money. The county's putting in a bunch of money, and we're going to try to use this for our underinsured or our indigent clients. And that's projected to open next year. And so that's Judge Willis, you need to come tour that when it's done. It's going to be really neat. And the final thing with that, again, with juvenile, is we've just recently this year kicked off something called Step Up Texas. It's a UT, Bluebonnet Trails, and our Juvenile Justice Center is working together. They're doing a research project from the DOJ's funded it through UT. And it's involving, we're taking the juvenile justice sim, we're focusing on trauma-informed care and racial and ethnic disparities. And we're going out and they're doing a lot of training. And so, for example, currently all of our sheriff's department, from the sheriff down to every new hire, is going through a training. And they're training them on neuroscience, epigenetics, ACEs, and resilience curriculum. It's called a near science curriculum. And they're training all the ISDs at the Mental Health in Schools conference. And so they're coming back and looking at 10 years of juvenile justice data in Williamson County and trying to make some sense of that, and then making some recommendation and policy changes for community intervention. So there's a task force. So in juvenile is just setting it on fire in Williamson County. I can take no credit for any of it. We have Matt Smith, I always have to shout out. He's our one of our juvenile folks, and Andrea Richardson's phenomenal. So proud of the work they all do.
That's terrific. Okay, Judge Charles Stevens.
Morning, Justice.
Morning.
We've got a few things going on in Comal County. Probably the best news I have is that the county is looking at using some of I think they're called ARPA funds from the COVID relief funds. And we're going to build a crisis stabilization unit, I think 16 beds. I'm not sure exactly when that will be done.
Great.
I heard I just found out about this. As one of our commissioners and the DA have been working on it, and I'm excited about that because that's been one of the biggest, problem areas we have, because we've always had to transport out of county, and still will, obviously, till that's built. But hopefully that will be done. 2 years would be fast, but maybe that amount of time. On the juvenile front, not sure if I mentioned this before, but we have brought in a counselor that works with the families. So when we have a situation with a juvenile that they're going to be placed, and there's obviously a lot of issues between the family and the juvenile, we're able to hire a juvenile counselor, bring her in, and work with the family so that when the juvenile comes back from placement, they're not thrown back into the same situation that they started in. And from a mental health standpoint, from the juveniles, I think that's going to be good, because hopefully then both sides will have the tools they need, or be working towards that and can work together. On the grant status, we do have the Comal County Data Sharing Project that we are still working on. The only thing that's frustrating me is it's slow enough when you have one government entity involved, and you started adding more in, and it gets painfully slow. And that's the frustration that I'm seeing. So I'm still pushing We still anticipate working with, hopefully with STRAC and also with the Sigma company we've hired to put something together so that we will have that data sharing plan. And then finally, the mental health court, Judge Williamson, our new county court of law judge, she's also here on the collaborative council, has started our mental health court, and they're working, staffing it. I think getting people in is a little bit of a challenge right now because we're working on the pathways to that, but hopefully they'll be working harder than they can expect very soon. That's all. Thank you.
Very good. And when you get that data sharing plan together, that would be probably a great thing to share with others, because that is a tough issue for every county. And okay, and Chief Stanridge.
Yes, good morning and thank
Morning.
you. I just want to spend my very brief time to talk about the confluence of 4 rivers, and I'm going to label those rivers as violent crime, jails, courts, and mental health. And I think we're at a time when we all need to be very sensitive to the fact that these rivers have come together, and it is not boding well for any of us, especially our mental health clients. So right now, violent crime across Texas has spiked. It began really spiking in 2020. In 2021, looks like 2021 and 2022 looks like it's going to be even worse. So the number of arrests for violent offenders has also increased. Simultaneous to that, the second river, the jails are almost all on diversion right now. Hayes County, as an example, immediately south of Boston, has more than 200 inmates currently diverted to other jails because we're simply out of room. The third river relates to the courts. The courts are not prosecuting people right now, and they have the rather convenient reason of COVID. So the courts were already backlogged between 18 and 24 months. Now with the pandemic, we're approaching 4 years of backlog cases that are simply not being prosecuted. And so it's not uncommon for victim services to contact victims, and they literally make the comment, "I thought you forgot about me." So you're now seeing the courts trying to schedule, but every time we try to get things scheduled, you then have yet another variant to come out, which then postpones more. So you have courts that are remarkably backlogged. And then the final and fourth river would be mental health. Mental health, we don't have beds for them in the jails. We don't have beds available for them at the state hospitals. And so it seems like everybody is currently being diverted. So we have a confluence of 4 rivers, and it's not boding well. The last thing I simply want to say is I want to reinforce what's already been said. And I want to talk about quickly adaptive capacity. My law enforcement peers are ready and welcome for change. But in many cases, especially in the smaller counties, they simply don't know what change or different looks like. And so I applaud you all for going on the road. You ultimately will increase our adaptive capacity by giving us more knowledge and getting the right stakeholders at the table. So thank you for that. Thank you for your leadership. That's all.
Yeah, it's great to remind us of what's going on and the challenges that we face out there. The Office of Court Administration is aware, especially with the felony cases, of the backlog, and working with the regional presiding judges to develop a plan to address that, so that we, hopefully will reduce it in a shorter amount of time than planned. Because we know that that's a problem, but good for you to bring it up. Okay, next, let's see. I was captivated by Chief Stanridge, and I put away my list. Shelley Smith.
Good morning, and thank you, Judge Bland. We are deep rooted in doing the SIM mapping. Matter of fact, we do that for Howard County on Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we're real excited about that. We've got a very active jail diversion committee, but we're looking at additional gaps and how we can come together. Of course, I've told y'all before, we cover 23 counties. So we've got to do this 23 different sets of people and bringing the right players together. but it's taking, it's gathering steam as we go along. And so I'm also working on the eliminate the wait list. I think that's a very positive step towards where we need to go. And also just want to mention that the backlog of people waiting to get in a state hospital is 2,175 today. So that list continues to grow, and we need more activities around that to lessen that load. So thank you.
Thank you. Professor Shannon.
Good morning. Hi, everyone. We have some exciting things happening in Lubbock County, but I'm not going to steal Beth Lawson's thunder because she's been the key person who's been making it happen. So just stand by for that. But in terms of my thing, what I do in terms of policy and education, I'm excited to let everyone know we're going to be doing our 4th Texas Tech Law School Mental Health Law Symposium on Friday, April 8th. Trying to plan it in the middle of Omicron in the last month or so. It's going to be a webinar, and I will include in the chat box shortly a link to the program as well as an opportunity for registration. We're really excited about it. A number of the speakers are commissioners on this body. When we've done these in the past, they've been in the fall, and they came in close proximity, at least the last time, to our judicial summit. So we were able to find a spring date this time as a way to provide for additional judicial education. I'm also excited that some of our national speakers will include Judge Leifman from Miami, as well as Professor Richard Bonney from University of Virginia Law School and Professor Chris Slavogan from Vanderbilt. And as I noted, commissioners who are on this call. So I will post that shortly, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody at least in the webinar on that date.
All right, Judge Rodriguez Betancourt. Renee, I know she was on long range planning yesterday, so I'm sure she's here. Maybe she got called away. All right, we'll come back. James Rasmussen.
Thank you, Justice Bland. Good morning. One practice that we've found that helps us quite a bit, we have a mental health case manager in the public defender's office, and she is available and frequently assists potential clients in the jail in filling out their paperwork for indigent application for indigent services, legal services. And she does this before we're actually appointed. So by that process, we're able to identify early on, even before any lawyer is appointed, somebody who may have a IDD or some mental health issues. Second practice that we have is we have 2 attorneys under a grant from the Indigent Defense Commission that are diversion attorneys, and they do the intake. And so if they identify somebody that has some mental issues or problems, they're able to hopefully divert that person or get them out of the criminal justice system if possible. And then a third thing that's been helpful is we have facilities available for our local psychologists to perform competency evaluations in our office. And so that's a big help because we get to confer with them orally at the time of the exam. And especially for those people that are out on bond, it can be very helpful that we're all together at the same time. One thing that probably is underutilized is our jail, and I'm sure a lot of jails contract out medical services. And our liaison probably with the medical staff is not as good as it should be. We don't get as good reports as to what's going on, and they see them for medical issues, but we don't always get the report on the mental deal. I think that's just I don't think that's any fault of them, but it's just something that could be worked on. And I'll look forward to learning more about the data committee. I was glad to see that was created because I think we're underutilizing technology. I would also say that I was at the first summit that I've been to in October, and want to thank the commission and the staff, Ms. Taylor's staff. I think they did an excellent job, and it was very informative. And I've never seen so many speakers having important things that could provide to us, and it was kind of an eye opener. So I thank them for that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Judge Yolanda Huff has a plea to take, so she's going to go now and then come back.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Thank you guys for allowing me to go out of order. I'm on 2 Zooms over here doing my morning docket. I just didn't want them. Actually, it's the morning, Thursday mornings, I take my my pleas to plea into the mental health court. And so I have a couple of those waiting. So I'm going to give my little report, and then I'll go over there, and then I'll jump back on over here. So I wanted to say, first of all, that I am Judge Yolanda Huff. I preside over County Court 12. It is a misdemeanor criminal bench in San Antonio, Bexar County. And I also preside over the mental health court, and I am a commissioner with the Judicial Commission on Mental Health. And I want to say to Judge Charles Stevens, if he's still on the Zoom, that the mental health court I preside over now it's been up and running for about 15 years. So a lot of people reach out to us to shadow our program, get information for our program, meet with us. I know the judge out of Hays County, his team met with us, and some other courts. So we will be happy to give you all of our knowledge, shadow us. My court manager can meet with your court manager to give you all the materials that we have, because we can help you streamline that. And since I took the bench in 2019, I've done a lot to streamline the mental health court. I made it so that that from the moment someone says that they want to come into our mental health court, that the goal is it's going to be a 30-day turnaround. So so the moment they reach out to me, the court manager and the case managers, we create a group text with the judge that's referring it, the judge's coordinator, me and my coordinator, the case manager, the defendant, and the defense attorney. And every 7 days, we'll do a progress report. We'll say, okay, 7 days later, we reached out to your client, he didn't reach back, needs to go take that doctor's appointment. So every 7 days, there's an update. We call it progress 1, progress 2, progress 3. So every time I, as judge, look at that chain, I can see where we are in that 30 days until 30 days. In 30 days, the goal is that person will be pleading into my mental health court. We don't always make the mark, but that is the goal. And it's really improved things. My look on it is like I flood people with information. When my kids bug me about things going on vacation, like, look at the emails mom is sending out, just flood them with information. So now the defense attorneys and all the other people don't have to ask. They'll know on that group chain what progress we're on, and I can do a quick look at it and see also. So I welcome anyone that wants to shadow us and reach out to us. Now, the second thing was that we're doing in Bexar County, San Antonio, is that a big thing, and I know that Christy Taylor and them have reached out to us about the 1622 process that this committee that Bexar County has convened. We did this right after when I became a judge in 2018, and I went to my first summit, and we learned about, that was just honestly my first time learning about the 1622. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what those red files were, and I didn't know what these 1622 reports. So Judge Zumba and I, this committee was formed, and it really had every stakeholder in Bexar County, and I do mean the sheriff's office, the DA's office, the district clerks, the county clerk, and we had Gilbert Gonzalez over the behavioral health department, Mike Lizito over pretrial. It must have been at least 40 to 50 people in this committee. We met for almost 2 years, like we're just now streamlining it, because the question was, why aren't the defense attorneys and the stakeholders that need this report getting these reports? We had IT, we fixed all these little hiccups. So now the defense attorneys are saying, okay, Judge, I'm getting that. I'm getting it in e-discovery. And so the next step, now that we've streamlined, and it took us, a year and a half to 2 years to get to this point, we're going to set out on a series of educational seminars And I've told Christy that when we get these seminars up, anyone can come and join we'll live stream it if you want to know. So it's going to be 5 seminars, educating the court, the public, especially the defense attorneys, the ADAs, anyone that wants to understand truly what the 1622 law is, what the 1622 report is, how you can implement it in your county. So that is the stage we're at now, getting ready to set up these seminars about educating the community. Now we did a test run back in Bear County, has the nuts and bolts in the behavioral department, but Gil Gonzalez puts us all. So Judge puts this on. So Judge Uzum and I presented about the 1622 process at that conference. And I'm telling you, I think the defense attorneys' minds were just blown. I mean, you should have seen the chat about what is this? What are you talking about? I've never seen this. I've never heard of it. And so the defense attorneys were interested, I'm telling you. And so we did, I had a slideshow, and actually that slideshow is still up on my YouTube channel if anyone is interested in how I presented the 1622 at that seminar. So that was just a little test run. So going forward with these educational meetings, there'll be, I'll definitely let the whole commission know when we start those. We have a committee. And Christy, I don't know if you want me to tell about of what you guys have reached out to me, wanted me to really chair the committee to let the whole state of all the judges, all the courts in the state of Texas understand how to implement the 1622, even if you have questions about what it is. I thought we were really behind. I said, well, I told to Christy and her staff, like, I'm just trying to get caught up. And they were like, no, Judge, we think you were at the forefront of this. I thought that, we were so behind, we were catching up to other counties. And they were like, no. So they reached out to me right before Christmas and asked me would I be willing to chair that committee. And I was really honored to do that. So going forward, that committee and I will be part of just really putting this out, the 1622 to all across the state of Texas. So there we go.
That's terrific. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. Lee Pearson. Lee. Okay. Denise Onken.
Good morning, everybody. Denise Onken out of Harris County DA's office in Houston. I did love Chief Stanbridge's analogy of the 4 rivers. Very interesting to me, because if you haven't heard, we have a violent crime issue in Harris County. But I will tell you, in regard to mental health, we continually to divert those low-level nonviolent offenders. In fact, as Wayne Young knows, since he runs the facility over there, we've diverted over 4,500 in the three and a half years that we have been going. So it's a terrific success. But one of the innovations that we did over at the DA's office was look a little bit at some of our low-level misdemeanor nonviolent offenders and try to figure out how we can get more of them into mental health diversion. And so what we've created is a post-charge mental health diversion for those individuals. It's a pretrial intervention program, as you judges are all familiar with, a contract that they can do with the DA's office. We try to do it on or about the first setting. And basically the requirement of that PTI is you just have to go to the mental health diversion center and get evaluated and see what they want to recommend for treatment. And then that's it. And it's a great opportunity for someone. It might be a case that law enforcement didn't realize that they had a mental health component. We realized that shortly after the charges are filed, or defense brings information to us. So it's a really good tool. The problem that we have found is defense is not so jumping on that as much. And so that's a little bit of our conundrum here, is how to get that moving a little bit faster. I will tell you that in regard to eliminate the wait, as Wayne mentioned, we've got several programs here. The outpatient competency restoration that I was a big proponent of. We're figuring out how to get more people into that, but also our jail-based competency restoration. It's full house here. In fact, we need another pod in the jail for that, Chief Lee, if you're listening to me. So we are, even though a very large jurisdiction, in fact, the largest in the state, we really keep our state hospital wait list down below some of our counterparts in the larger jurisdictions, which is a real positive. And I will, on a shout out to the state hospital systems and everyone who's here from there, They did open the new John S. Dunn facility here in Houston, right next to our Harris County Psychiatric Center. It's a state hospital, and it's for the 29 surrounding counties. So they had the ribbon cutting last week, and that's a very exciting thing going on here. And it's those state hospital dollars actually opening a new facility. So thank you very much, Justice Bland.
Thanks, Denise. Judge Roxanne Nelson.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Roxanne Nelson here, Justice of the Peace of Burnett County. It's odd that a rural county would follow Denise. It's always interesting for me to hear all of the fantastic things that are happening in our larger counties. It's unfortunate sometimes why some of these processes have to be put into place. So speaking for Burnett County and the best practice, we are a little more meager in our means. We don't always have the large resources. So I'd say our best practice is one of collaboration, which the commission likes to talk a great deal about. And our biggest, and I think one of our most impactful collaborations occurs at the time someone is arrested. And as soon as someone answers one of those yes questions on the medical questionnaire at the jail, and it starts the ball rolling with notifications, that 1622 notice to the magistrate then forwarding it to all of the parties that need to be notified so that things can start happening right away. We usually have our LMHA respond to that on the same day. And our LMHA is Blue Bonnet Trails. You can always hear me sing their praises along with Andrea Richardson. They do a fantastic job of helping us. So I want to talk about underutilized resources. And I think that maybe we're missing an opportunity as a commission to take all of this wonderful information that we've already been putting together, all of the bench books, the charts, the cards. I think that we need to start populating that in a better way. And by that may be education. Start putting that out for use for all of our training centers, whether they be the Municipal Court Training Center, the JP Training Center, and so on and so forth. Let's start really teaching this information to everyone who needs to be taught, instead of just hoping that they make it to one of our summits or something like that. Because all of this information can be used across the state if we just start getting it out there. COVID has set Burnett County back a little bit. So it's one of those one step forward, two step back things. We were regularly having stakeholder meetings that were very informative for everyone. We're hoping to start those back up next week. We also have a new mental health caseworker that's working with our expanded public defender's office that's excited about jumping in and helping with SIM mapping here in the area. So by the next time we have a meeting, I hope that I have some updates for those things. Thank you again. You all have a great day.
Thank you, Judge Nelson. Judge Tamara Needles.
Good morning. I don't know if y'all can see me and hear me. There I am. No, I have just been taking notes furiously over here on all the amazing things that are going on in so many counties close to us. And I have a list of names that I need to reach out to tell me more about what's going on in Harris County or Williamson County, and to make some connections. Travis County, with the commissioners and with David Evans, who's also commissioner on here with us, is working on a steering committee to do very much some of the same type mapping for Travis County. Not necessarily a SIMS map, but just of a where are we, what do we have, where are we going to go forward with this? What are our gaps at this point and moving forward? So a lot of the things that I'm hearing from some of the other counties, that's kind of where we are at, and that thankfully our commissioners court has approved that so that we can move forward with that. Because, I hear lots of people saying lots of positive things, and I'm with Denise and talking about the recollecting the sergeant's comments on the Four Rivers. Travis County also is dealing with significant violent crimes and a significant weight. And to some extent, some of the frustrations that I believe that I'm having and others in our community is that and I think David Evans would back me up on this, sometimes our commissioners court doesn't move as quickly as what we need, meaning there's not the funding. I was writing down furiously when, and I forget the name, was talking about a diversion attorneys. And I was like, no, where did they get grants for that? Because it's those things that we need. We have the want and the drive in Travis County, but sometimes I feel like we're not getting the political support. Probably not a very popular thing for me to say as an elected official in Travis County, but I think it's the reality. And I think that's where some of our advocates, and I know Sonia Burns is on here too, where our advocates like Sonia, as well as I, am frustrated that we're not moving as quickly as we need be, considering our Four Rivers dilemma that we have right now. So we are moving forward with the steering committee and hoping that that will help us find those gaps and move our commissioners who have the purse strings here to do more in Travis County, but certainly not forgetting what it is that we fall short on here in Travis County as well. So good and bad.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. And Representative Joe Moody has been a big part of the JCMH legislative efforts, has been on and listening. And are you here, Representative Moody? No, maybe he dropped off. Okay, and then next we'll do Dr. Martinez, Dr. Octavio Martinez.
Thank you, Justice Bland. Good morning, everyone, commissioners and council members. So the Hawk Foundation for Mental Health, I know many of you know us because we cover the entire state of Texas. We've been around since 1940, innovators since the very beginning. The Hawk Foundation for Mental Health was, in fact, the first foundation in the country dedicated 100% to mental health, and we've been innovating since then. For example, creating the first, mental health code for the state of Texas. And in 2010, though, which is what I want to concentrate on, we also were very innovative, and we created the first Hog Policy Mental Health Policy Academy in the community. This is the only one that exists in the entire country. And it has been tremendous, I believe. The foundation, we fund 10 host organizations every other year. And in fact, this is a funding year for us. And that's why I'm bringing it up to bring to your attention, where we employ, mentors as well as fellows for 10 organizations, 501c3 nonprofits. They can be governmental organizations. They can be academic organizations. So we highly encourage you to take a look. We just released a request for proposals for the 2022 Mental Health Policy Fellow Grants. So 5 are for peer fellows and 5 are for policy fellows. Now, I hope you caught that. The policy fellows are the folks that we usually think about in fellowships, individuals with degrees in public health, policy, law, so forth. Peer fellows, though, peer policy fellows, we recognize their lived experience in lieu of a master's degree. And it has been an amazing, I think, change, because this grant program, this initiative that we created, is not only to increase the capacity of nonprofits and our community organizations to understand how policy works and to be involved and to be part of the process with us, but in fact, it's also a leadership development initiative. And for instance, we've had alumni now since 2010 who have been at Texas Health and Human Services Commission, at the Texas Medical Association, Texas House of Representatives, at CASA, Texas. We've had folks at the American Pediatric Society. And I think even here at the JCMH. So we have an alum, Greg Hanch, and another alum that you all are familiar with is Kevin Garrett. So one is on the Collaborative Council, and another one is a commissioner. I'm just pointing out how not only innovative, but how successful this grant program is. And I really encourage you all to either think about for your organizations and or really putting the word out to nonprofits to please apply. We've got 10 that we want to fund. We're excited about putting together a new cohort. So thank you for allowing me to share that with you today.
And we're always lamenting how low the resources are, the availability of resources. So here are some resources that Dr. Martinez and his foundation are offering. So if you have the need, please reach out. Okay, next is Judge Pam Liston. Okay, Chief Mike Lee.
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh, sorry,
Hello.
Judge Liston. Go ahead.
I was furiously doing that. Okay, so the underutilized resource that I wanted to share, we got a lot of exciting things going on, but I just want to share the one underutilized resource. I stumbled across Texas Workforce Commission, that their vocational rehab services. And so when somebody has a mental illness or intellectual disability, they will come and actively walk alongside and connect them to jobs. And I stumbled across this in a training that I did. I happened to sit next to the guy from my area because we were down in Austin. It was crazy providential. And so now we are setting up where he or one of his staff members is going to come to court when I have a connection that I need to make with somebody that's struggling in this way, for them to get up on their feet. And I'm going to send the link for this program in the chat now.
That's great. It's always amazing what you can find out there. Okay, and Judge Elizabeth Leonard.
Sorry, I'm trying to copy the link from Judge Liston. That is great information. In terms of underutilized resources, I think we're going to find a lot when we do the sequential intercept mapping in May that I'm super excited about, because there are going to be so many ideas that don't cost that much money. One of the things we've done in Midland is, and this I think gets to the data sharing, is whenever somebody checks into probation, and this is really from the intake, they'll do a HIPAA release so we can run those names through our LMHA. So we can see who is in services and on probation and also in services. So we can either make sure they're doing okay, and you don't want to mess up, give additional services if they're doing fine. But if they're not doing fine, we can transfer them to a mental health probation officer, and then potentially look at mental health court for them. So that is just kind of something that's really not going to cost much money, but it helps identify people who might be slipping through the cracks. The other thing that we have started is for mental health court particularly, is bringing the probation officer and the local mental health caseworker together. So the caseworker will come actually to the probation office. So they'll meet together. So you can't play mommy versus daddy, yeah, I'm on my beds, but oh yeah, let's see, you're really not. So that'll help the accountability, but also it's one less appointment for them to make. And a lot of times it's hard for them to make appointments. So those were the only two items I wanted to share with you today.
Okay, great. And now Chief Lee.
Hey, good morning, everybody. First, I just want to echo Chief Stanbridge's comments. He did a very eloquent job of giving everyone a glimpse of what's going on in law enforcement, not just across Texas, but across the nation right now. Here at Harris County, we're at capacity with 9,000 inmates. We have 500 inmates sitting in the state of Louisiana. What's really bothersome is not only is the criminal justice system backing up, our state hospital wait list is the longest I've seen in over 5 years. It's nearly tripled. Unfortunately, we had a mentally ill inmate commit suicide this morning. So it is not a good situation. We do need things to start moving. But on the bright side, so one of the innovations that I want to share, and I know I've discussed on here before, is our CORE. That's the Clinician Officer Remote Evaluation Program. That is the program that we kicked off about 2 years ago as a pilot, where the deputies, we started with 10 deputies carrying an iPad in their car, where they have direct access to a clinician through an iPad. And that has become phenomenally successful. I'm very excited about that program. It's expanded to over 200 iPads in our agency. It's also expanded to Baytown, LaPorte, our fire marshals, Houston Metro, Houston Police Department, So it's spreading like wildfire. I'm excited about that program because, like Roxanne always points out, a lot of times you see the big agencies have a lot of resources. This is a resource that I think it can help the smaller agencies as much as it can, or maybe even more than the big agencies. You know, people forget, you know, Harris County, El Paso County, Lubbock County, we have big counties, but we have 254 counties. We have 254 sheriffs, and a lot of those don't have resources. And I think using technology, that has been one innovation that I think can really help law enforcement across the state. One underutilized resource that I want to put out there is that, matter of fact, I just returned last night from a conference up in DC at the major city or major county sheriff's conference, and Attorney General Merrick Garland was there speaking. And it was nice to hear him talk about some of the things that the Department of Justice is pushing out to help law enforcement across the country respond to the issues of mental health and homelessness, which we're all dealing with. And he pointed out that one of the things they put a lot of support in is their 14 Department of Justice national learning sites around the nation. 2 of those happen to sit right here in Houston with the Houston Police Department and the Harris County Sheriff's Office. And those learning sites provide free technical assistance and training to any law enforcement agency actually in the country. But I definitely, and so we have seen more interest and more agencies from outside our state come in town, or that we've sent our officers outside the state to provide this free technical assistance. And I really want to make sure that we spread the word around Texas, and this platform with our commission is one way we can do it, and make sure that we're really taking care of our own agencies here in the state of Texas and having them tap into that resource. So that's my update here, and just thanks for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Chief. Beth Lawson, Judge Stevens said you had exciting information to share with us.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Beth Lawson. I represent Star Care Specialty Health System in Lubbock. We're the local mental health authority for Lubbock County and 4 other counties contiguous. We are very excited to be able to report today that one of our innovations is really ironic, and that is, meeting together and talking to people. I don't know if anybody out there was like me when you were in school at any level. Group projects were always met by me with a real because what I know is like group projects are almost always about one person doing the work and everybody else taking the credit. But this has not been our experience. We have had recently, about 3 or 4 years ago, we've had a group of major players in our community: Texas Tech University and Health Science System, Health Science Center, and University Medical Center, Covenant Health Group, Medical Center, Star Care, the city of Lubbock and the county of Lubbock coming together, and we created a collaborative. The collaborative is called the West Texas Mental Health Collaborative. We commissioned, we ended up money. We put some pretty big money together and commissioned a study from the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute around the needs around mental health in our community. We were very clear that we felt like we knew what our needs were, but needed some external validation and a bright set of eyes that come in. And so all of the work that we have put together has yielded a real sense of moving away from just having a collaborative spirit and moving toward a level of coordination of care. We had a real, yes, we have a really good idea that we need to work together. Oh, it's great, yada, yada. But, you all stay in your own lane, and 5 minutes later, you're still in your silo doing your own thing. And so we have really moved into a coordination of care perspective, and having had that work together and having some real empirical data to put forth, chance favors a prepared mind, right? We were ready when ARPA came out. We were ready to testify. And I'm happy to report, a long way to say, I'm happy to report that we received state, county, and city funds to not only expand Sunrise Canyon Hospital by 50% to address some of the wait list issues at the state, but also to build a bricks and mortar diversion center in Lubbock County that will continue the work that we started through the 1115 program of diverting people from high cost, less appropriate alternatives like jail, emergency rooms, nursing homes, and physical medicine hospitals. So we are thrilled that we are going to have an actual place that will be dedicated toward getting people the right care and diverting people away from the criminal justice system and emergency rooms.
Okay, terrific. And next, Adrienne Kennedy.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Justice Bland.
Good morning.
Obviously, everybody's ideas have just been filling my page with notes as fast as I could make them. I want to tell you that one of my big promotion pieces, one of the big practices that I see important is that the whole notion of intercept mapping and the fact that finding those no wrong doors and making sure communities have that developing in a strong way. So that's something that I want to be working on very strongly. I want you to know also that at the national level, at the NAMI national level, this commission has had tremendous impact on our planning and our thinking about what we need to be doing state by state, actually. And so part of it is that we just named at the national level a national director for jail diversion that takes a look at actually some of the leadership trends that are emerging out of Texas. So in fact, you know, with your permission and with the commissioner's permission and Christie's staff help, I want to make sure that this commission meeting, particularly because it's been so rich with so many ideas coming from around the state and from each of the commissioners, that this gets reviewed by our Justice Diversion National Director. It's really very important. I think one of the underutilized resources, you know, and of course, we have 988 on target to emerge in July. I think there's a lot of SIM mapping help and also community development that we can be putting together. And we're at the national NAMI level, we're also redesigning affiliate development. So hopefully we can start landing more affiliate spaces and places and community coordination that has some NAMI leadership help or support across the different counties, particularly in underserved communities and in the rural outreach populations. I think one of the big things, of course, you know, I think Chief Standridge said it best when he talked about the 4 rivers. We see those 4 rivers across the country. And I want you to know that one of the things that has slowed down the mental health professionals, I believe, and Dr. Martinez would be able to speak to this even more, and also David Evans, but I think there's been an embarrassment to own what the jail complexities are with mental illness issues. And there's been a lot of talk within NAMI over decades now about whether or not we adequately embrace the folks within our constituents who in fact have jail cycling histories. And so we're seeing our own constituents now around NAMI in this state and around the country take much more of an active role and an active concern for justice issues and support in the processes that you're all putting in place. I think also it's very important that we do get stakeholders to the table, as Chief Standridge said, and I want to pledge, you know, my help in that way, in every way possible. I think we need to start thinking about parent navigators or support system navigators that are part of the lived experience cycle, so that in fact we can be with each of you side by side, because obviously it's, you know, in the intercept mapping, we learned that it's the gaps and the opportunities, but also partnership development at the community level. And I want to be, you know, active in these ways in any way that I'm called upon. I'm very, very committed to this. And I believe that we're going to see a lot of help, but also a lot of consternation as we launch 988. And we see where that intersects with the other work that we're doing in community development and SIM mapping. Obviously, if you want to talk about eliminating the wait, which I think is an enormously important initiative that JCMH has launched, the best place to eliminate it is at Intercept Zero, right? And community interventions as early and as soon as possible. And also, as you mentioned, Beth, the whole notion of coordinated care and early care. So thank you so much. Just know that I'm side by side with the enthusiasm that each of you has launched in your own communities. Thank you so much for your work.
And thank you, Adrienne. And Representative Moody, who I had mentioned has been such a wonderful partner with JCMH on the legislative front, is back on and would like to say good morning.
Hey, everybody, and thank you. I apologize for being off and on. 2021 took me away from my day job for much longer than I had planned on, or my employers had planned on. And so I'm catching up and making up for lost time. But I've been keeping up with it. I have staff on the call to keep up with some of the recommendations and some of the things that y'all are seeing out in the field. So I appreciate that, because those are the things that are going to inform our legislative policies going forward, or hopefully will be informing our legislative policies going forward. All right, it's always good to be evidence-based and practice-based. So I'm going to give you just a real brief update where we are in the legislative process, where I think that these tools, these lessons, these best practices that y'all are sharing are going to be able to plug into a very real legislative discussion. We're probably going to see, we're a bit delayed with everything because of how last year went, but we're going to see legislative interim charges in the next month, is my guess. I've been visiting with the back hall and going over those conversations now. Our speaker, Dade Phelan, is committed to criminal justice reform as a broad umbrella of topics that includes a lot of the issues that we talk about. And so that is something that is going to continue to be a major plank in what he wants to do as a leader in the House, much like we saw Speaker Strauss on mental health and substance use disorder. So you're going to see that out of the House on criminal justice reform, which I said, a lot of broad categories that are going to be there. I expect when you see those interim charges, there's going to be a specific focus that we can take our work here and start to marry it with the legislative process throughout this year so that we can hit the ground running in 2023. That being said, we'll probably call on many of you to loan more of your expertise as that process continues. So thank you. Appreciate all that you do in bringing a cohesive approach and a unified voice to this process is very helpful. And so this is the best way that I know to get good policy through a sometimes less than ideal scenario at the Texas Capitol. But anyway, thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you in person next time around.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Representative Moody. And we really appreciate the hard work that you've done in advancing best practices through legislation. And we look forward to continuing to partner with you in the upcoming session. We've already got our legislative, I don't know if you were on for that part of it. We've already got our legislative committee hard at work looking at proposals. So thanks again for being here today. Okay, next is Judge Oscar Kazin.
Thank you, Justice. I appreciate that. Hope everyone's doing well. Just a quick silly observation. We have got to get them to give us different backdrops, because I get a kick out of it. I had a meeting with a whole bunch of judges, about 7 of us, and we all had the same backdrop from the Office of Court Administration. We looked like we were sitting in the same place. So 3 quick things. First, some time ago, about a year ago, you all had tasked us, myself, and to look at a Texas practitioner's guide for outpatient treatment. And the good news is that together with a Treatment Advocacy Center out of Washington, Professor Brian Shannon and others, it's about 100 pages. It's pretty in depth. It takes you from point A to point B if you're a Texas court on how to set it up, what it should look like, some of how the practices work. It should be out at the end of this month, and hopefully we can, if you haven't already gotten the initial copy, we're going to give it to the commission, the executive committee, to look at it and review it and see if we can incorporate it now as one of the resources. It took a lot of work, but we're there. So that's the good news on that. Yes, ma'am.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
All right, and then so as to the specific questions, we had an unfortunate death of a Mr. Daniels here, a mentally ill individual who was sadly lost his life in an interaction with police officers, local police officers. And Judge Nelson Wolf, our county judge, decided, we need to create a task force on behavioral health and justice. And he asked myself and Doug Beach from NAMI to chair the task force. And we created several committees along the intercept points. And we were doing a lot of work on recommending what it is we thought we needed in Bexar County. Along the way came the ARPA funds. So they changed our mission just a little bit and said, while you're doing that, give us the priority of where you think spending should be. The reason I mention that is actually the best practice, a tip that I would give, I hadn't thought about it from this perspective, But if each of you can get your county judge and county commissioners to give you the moniker of their appointment and tell you, look, we're asking you all to put together your thoughts from the community on what is most important in the sequence model, so that when we go to spend money, we can use your guide as a principle. It really has paid off, because we gave our report to the commissioners just 2 weeks ago. It looks as though many, if not all, of the recommendations are going to be funded either from ARPA or other means based on that report. The task force had almost 100 individuals in it, in the committees from the community. We built it of stakeholders and experts. I know we do, and this echoes back to what Beth Lawson said, we should be doing collaborative efforts. But I found in this particular time of all of them, the fact that the commissioners and the county judge said, you want to be, we're appointing you to be our task force. Let us know what you think, really had an impact on how they're going to spend and vote. So I would just recommend that as a best practice. Approach your county judge and commissioners and have them appoint somebody to be their advisory, and hopefully you're on it. Where we still lack some work, I think, and I think we're working on, we have this sequential intercept where you're in jail or have a criminal case and we're trying to dismiss the charges. And then we have this outpatient treatment on the civil side, which does great work in and of itself. But in every county, there's still a little bit of flux as to how you take them from one system to the other. And we are now working on a more formal procedure, step 1, step 2, step 3, so that we can identify those individuals that are appropriate for a civil outpatient commitment or a warm handoff to the local mental health authority with some very specific guidelines upon dismissal of their case. So that's where we still need, I think, a lot of work. Those are just some of my thoughts. The last thing I would say is, if you haven't already done this, in San Antonio and Bexar County, we have the South Texas Regional Advisory Council, that's STRAC. It's an organization of the hospitals that spread out the emergency room beds in cases of emergencies. What we did some time ago was we got that same collaborative to agree that STRAC would be the directing agency for all of the emergency detentions and warrants. And I know a lot of communities have done it. If you haven't, you should. It makes it that much easier for the officer on an ED or a warrant or a detention to not have to sit in a hospital for 30 minutes or be told we're full. They don't even get directed to that hospital unless the bed's already ready. And all the hospitals have agreed on a rotational system so that it's fair and not any one hospital is overwhelmed with emergency detentions and warrants. Just a thought, you really ought to look at how they do it here in Bexar County. That's also, I think, a very good best practice. Anyway, thank you for letting me speak, Justice. I appreciate that.
Oh, no, great. Those are great suggestions. And next we have Dr. Andy Keller.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Justice Bland. So I think the innovation I'd want to highlight on our end are the multidisciplinary treatment teams that are being implemented in Bexar County and are about to be expanded to the city of San Antonio, along with the plan Judge Kazin just went over, which, by the way, what San Antonio did around putting that ARPA plan together is itself a best practice, Judge. And folks should look at what, that PowerPoint that was presented this week to the County Commissioners Court. People should get a copy of that, because every one of your counties could do exactly the same thing with their ARPA funds if they had the same will that Bexar County had and the city of San Antonio working together. So sorry for that unpaid advertisement for the wonderful people of San Antonio, but it's really cool. But these multidisciplinary response teams are really, really important, because the best way for y'all to have fewer people on the on your wait lists is to, in your jails and in your dockets, is to not have them in the justice system. And if you look at the results, and we are about to release a paper, hopefully tomorrow, actually, that's going to lay out the results of some of the more extended ones, because Dallas is where we've had the most experience, but also Abilene. It doesn't have to happen in a big city. By putting paramedics, mental health people, and law enforcement together, specialized law enforcement, we're diverting so many more people from the justice system, but also from hospitals, because it doesn't help your system if they go wait in emergency rooms either. And so I really encourage you to look at this model. The Pew Charitable Trust is investing in this and startups on this. And it also it is not a replacement for mobile crisis teams and enhanced mobile crisis teams and cahoots the type models, which are civilian models. Those are also really important, but they're not going to respond to people who are in danger. We've studied the New York Be Heard program, which is a very high profile program that New York City, New York is implementing. Less than 20% of their mental health related calls can go to their civilian Be Heard teams because there's a risk of violence. I mean, the tragic case that happened last October of 2020, in Philadelphia, where Mr. Wallace was killed, and a lot of people might have read about this. He had a knife and was shot and killed, and his family was very upset because they'd called 911 for medical care. Well, 911 isn't going to go help anyone holding a knife. You can be having a baby, and if you're holding a knife, they're not going to go help you have your baby. So you have to have a specialized law enforcement response. And we now have these teams in Texas operating in Austin, city of Austin, County of Bexar County, San Antonio is about to launch one. Dallas has, and Abilene are furthest along. Tyler's looking at them. Galveston's about to launch one. These are very doable teams, and your ARPA dollars are a fantastic way to do that. So that's the main thing I would point out in terms of, and I'll put a little report in the link after I'm done talking, because I can't talk and paste at the same time. I'm worried if I were to paste while talking, I would paste something that I should not paste. So like maybe my bank statement or something like that. So the other thing, I guess, in terms of what we do that I'd like you all to take us up on more is, we're a policy institute, but a big part of policy is figuring out how to finance things. So, I'm a psychologist, but my career before getting the institute was around figuring out how to use Medicaid to do stuff like we want to do here. And we have some of the best people. We have Stephanie Muth, the former Medicaid director, who is a senior fellow for us. We have Monica Tyson, who was the former ninja within HHSC, who made all the Medicaid stuff work. And we would never have taken her from HHSC, but she was leaving. So we tried to save her from going to one of those, for-profit consulting firms so she could still help out. So we are really good at figuring out finance. And if you want to start something up in your local jurisdiction and you want your partners, we can work with your local mental health authority, work with other folks to figure out how to finance stuff you want. And Judge Betancourt, who's on my board, is already getting us to do this. And I get to do that for free for her. She's on my board, and we would do that for free for y'all too. I mean, we have a lot of information we can just give you, and we don't charge for, just kind of helping you think through that stuff. Now, if you need us to come hang out in your county, we'll probably have to find some foundation or something, but we know a lot of foundations. So that's the main thing I think that we feel like we're probably underutilized for, particularly in the justice setting. So Justice Bland, that was my prepared statement.
Thank you, Dr. Keller. And the We is the Meadows Foundation, if you all know.
So we're the Meadows Mental Health Policy Institute, which
Mental Health
bears
Policy.
the name
Got
of the
it.
Meadows Foundation. We're happy to have you confuse us with them because everybody
Sorry.
loves the Foundation. No, it's all good. We like the Meadows Foundation kind of gave us our initial funding and continues to be an important funder, but more importantly, let us use their name because they are beloved. So thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, great. And next, Judge Bonnie Helms.
My husband's so grateful that I have a mute button every now and then. He'd like to use it to mute me, but I'm from Houston, and I am on the board that Wayne Young spoke about, and so a lot of the stuff that I would have told you about, he has already covered. So there are several things that I think are being underused, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a personal history to understand this. My daughter has two girls that are both ADHD. And because of some of the stuff she had witnessed when I was in court, and I would be flying around the room because they were putting these kids on psychotropic meds and they were getting hooked on them. And, it was just like, we got to have something else. She said, she's a therapist. She said, no psychotropic meds. So she found this thing where biofeedback. Now, a lot of you all may already know about this. I was a therapist before I became a lawyer and a judge, but I didn't know a whole lot about this stuff. I found out the girls would come in and say, Mom, we're losing focus. She'd put these things on their head. She had the machine at home, sit down. They would watch it on the machine. They would get up and they'd go play their basketball. They'd go take their exam, whatever. Never made anything other than a straight A. done great in basketball and everything else, just on target. One is in a sophomore in college. The other one is in the 8th grade. So I called Wayne and I said, part of the thing that I've been doing, I've been sitting as a visiting judge, especially in cases involving CPS, and I order that the kids need to see someone that is trained in trauma for therapy, because so many of these kids that are in CWAP are there because they have been in trauma and no one's treated the trauma, and consequently the amygdala acts up and they go off key and then they get ejected from the family. So I've just said we need to have trauma informed care for these people. Sorry, Judge, we can't find anybody that'll do it, that will pay, be paid, reimbursed by the state. So anyway, I asked my daughter, I said, is this stuff could this help with trauma? And she said, Mother, that's the reason it was founded. It was to be used with soldiers with PTSD. And she said, so trauma-based was what it started from. So she sent me the information. I had called Wayne and he said, Judge, the state's not going to reimburse us. So I sent him the information and he called me back shortly thereafter and said, I cannot believe it. The state will reimburse us for it. So if you don't have the ability to use it, I'm going to put something in the chat box about how to find this company. But you either can fly your people out to California and get trained and get the equipment and stuff you need out there, or if you have enough people together, they will come to you and do the training. I'm fairly sure we're going to be doing that in Harris County. So if any of you all have any therapy type animals that would like to learn how to do this, you might want to give Wayne a call and say, can we bring our person down too? Because it would be considerably cheaper to do it that way. But my husband and I are both heavily involved with fighting sex trafficking, and we have made great progress on that. We have formed what's called NTZ, which is No Trafficking Zone in Harris County, and it's a 501c3. My husband, who played professional football, and some other guys on the board have named NRG Stadium as the first no trafficking zone in the world. It's the first sports facility that has recognized sex trafficking as a problem. And the commissioners in Harris County, who can't agree as to whether the sun is up or down, have agreed to each fund at a fairly significant money. I say fairly, it's $8,000 a person from the four of them to start the charity. And we had a press conference, and at the press conference, I couldn't believe it. Sheila Jackson Lee was there and Mike McCall was there. Both of them representatives of the House, one a Republican, one a Democrat. They came together and stated that they are going to make a movement because of the changes in the legislature, which happened this last time, where they declared all the schools in the state of Texas as no trafficking zones. They changed the law to where if you text somebody while they're in school, it's a felony. So there have been some real good changes that have come about, legally speaking. But we've got the two of McCall and Lee came together. They're going to present a proposal to the House that the United States of America become a no trafficking zone. So this puppy is growing big time, and I'm just so tickled. I think that I've covered more than I should. I'm sorry.
No, thank you, Judge Helms. Okay, next, Dr. Courtney Harvey.
Good morning, everyone. One innovation that I'd like to highlight is mentalhealthtx.org. So the Health and Human Services Commission took funds that we received from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and on behalf of the statewide Behavioral Health Coordinating Council, we made some significant modifications to this website. This website is really meant to be a one-stop shop for information about IDD and behavioral health resources, and we continue continue to refine this website over time. So some of the information that can be found on the website includes behavioral health providers. You can learn information about common behavioral health conditions such as depression and anxiety. We've now begun to add more information on IDD services and supports. We have an e-learning hub on the site where you can watch videos on trauma and PTSD, behavioral health issues in youth, and more. So I just want to draw people's attention to mentalhealthtx.org as a resource. In designing it, we really did bring some intentionality and not wanting to do something that was maybe duplicative of 211 Texas as an example. So you can find so many resources on 211 Texas that are not necessarily specific to IDD or behavioral health. So we've got a partnership with 211 Texas whereby we draw in resources from 211 that are IDD or a behavioral health specific into our website, but we let them do kind of all of the checks and balances related to the kinds of providers that we highlight on this website. So I'll post a link to the website in the chat box. By way of an underutilized resource, I really wanted to highlight a community resource coordination groups. Many of you may be familiar with community resource coordination groups, which we call CRCGs for short, but these are county-based groups of local partners and community members who work with parents, caregivers, children, youth, and adults with complex needs. And they work to identify and coordinate services and supports for those individuals. It is a huge myth that CRCGs only staff children and youth cases. They also do serve adults. And so these bodies exist to, again, work to coordinate care on behalf of individuals that have complex needs that really can't be met by one organization. So there are several ways that people can get referred to CRCGs. They can be referred by a local agency or organization, a family or peer representative, or through their own request. So I think
I'm on mute.
So I think CRCGs can be a significant resource to highlight for judges, for treatment teams, for courts, attorneys, parole and probation officers, law enforcement, et cetera. Any of these individuals could serve as referring agents to CRCGs. So there is a CRCG webpage that I will also post in the chat box. And then lastly, I would be remiss if I did not highlight the state's first strategic plan for IDD. The development of this plan was in part inspired by the work of the statewide Behavioral Health Coordinating Council and the Behavioral Health Strategic Plan. Over the last few years, we held regional listening sessions. We issued a statewide survey. We did some targeted outreach with organizations that are well-versed in IDD services and supports. And we convened a work group of experts that were charged with developing this plan. So there have been several conversations amongst commissioners of the JCMH that I've been privy to, where there was this voice need to be more intentional in focusing on the IDD population and the nuances for how those individuals move through the juvenile and criminal justice system. So my hope is that people will take the time to read the plan and not just read it, but really see it as a tool for understanding the needs of this population, understanding the differences in financing and funding and policymaking between the IDD population versus the behavioral health population, because there are some major differences, and that people will be intentional in self-reflecting on what they can contribute to better serving these clients. And with that, that's my update. Thank you so much.
A terrific update. Sonia Gaines.
Good morning, all. I'm the Deputy Executive Commissioner for IDD and Behavioral Health Services at the Health and Human Services Commission. First of all, I just want to say I'm so excited to hear all the different initiatives, and I was particularly excited to hear about the partnership and the collaboration that's going on statewide with our local mental health authorities. Very exciting efforts that are going on. I think many of you know that our 39 local mental health authorities play a critical role in terms of community mental health services. And that stood true during the pandemic. Really pleased that some of the services and infrastructure that we had were really put to task and really played a critical role in terms of supporting Texans. In particular, I'm really excited to say that because of our crisis service array, particularly our call centers, we at HHSC contract with all of our local authorities to have 24-hour call centers 7 days a week that are answered by live people. And those call centers really stood up, and on average, they were taking about 10,000 calls per month. So I'm really, really grateful for that. We were able to build on that infrastructure, and I considered this to be an innovation where we also were able to stand up a statewide COVID support line. We were able to partner with Wayne Young at the Harris Center. He and his team have done an incredible job thus far. That COVID line has taken on more than 20,000 calls, and it's been since March of 2020. So that has been a tremendous resource. That resource also allows for texting and chat through a Texas function, as well as also providing support to first responders. So very, very excited about that. Another innovation, real quickly, we have, through our 39 local mental health authorities, we have been actively working to get them all certified as certified community health clinics. It's a national certification, very rigorous requirements for that. But it is has a strong foundation of integrated health, including substance abuse, mental health, and physical health services. And I'm proud to say that close to 80% of our local authorities are now certified. It also has a peer component as well as a strong crisis component. And then one of the things I will talk about lastly in terms of innovations is that we stood up a pilot to support individuals with IDD that also have mental health conditions. The pilot is among 5 of our local authorities, our IDD authorities. It's been very successful in terms of supporting those individuals. Of 130 people that have been served, we know that close to 90% of them we've been able to keep in the community. Very excited about that. And then lastly, I'm going to mention in terms of underutilized resources, Wayne mentioned it, some others have mentioned it. We have outpatient competency restoration services that have been in place since 2007. And while we are seeing a lot of positive outcomes for many sites, some communities, and particularly, judges and prosecutors have not necessarily embraced it at the same level of enthusiasm. So we are doing quite a bit of outreach with various communities. We have our forensic director, Dr. Simpson, who plays a role in that, as well as Associate Commissioner Trina Ida and her team. So that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Gaines. Okay, next, David Evans.
Thank you, Justice Bland. I'll give some brief remarks. I know that our time's starting to condense here a little bit, and some of the things I would have covered have been covered by others today. I want to mention that we just finished this week, Tuesday and yesterday, our Central Texas African American Family Support Conference. This is a conference that is really driven by local collaborative input and efforts. It certainly has had impact as we've talked about mental health access and availability with the schools. We've mentioned CRCGs, law enforcement. And I was notified this morning that because this was a virtual conference this year, it was our 22nd consecutive conference, but that we had 788 participants. So it wasn't just here in Austin that this work was carried out. I would really also tag this in part as Intercept to Zero. This is really vital family-oriented community information, although it did address some things like re-entry and of course, some of the disproportionality that we see in the criminal justice system. Next of all, I just want to briefly touch on technology. It was brought up earlier, and we're implementing, and this is where we're behind a little bit, 500 iPads in working with Austin Police Department and also EMS. Andy mentioned the importance of integrated healthcare in a response. And so our role is to have load these iPads with the resources, the interoperability of the information, the training, and implementing those. And of course, this is working in some concert with our embedding local mental health authority staff in the 911 call center. And then it was also mentioned some of the coordination that needs to take place with mobile crisis outreach teams that we're currently working on. The other thing is that I think SHRAC has been mentioned a couple of times out of San Antonio and Hill Country, and we're working really hard on our health information exchange. This is interoperable data across healthcare, but what's new is linking data systems with social determinants of health and our homeless management information system. So we could talk a long time on this one, but it's some of the data exchange that can and could and should take place in behind the services. The last thing I'll mention is housing, and just the critical importance of the stability that housing brings. Our city, through a large summit, has an ambitious goal of 3,000 new housing units in the next 3 years, and our city and county and private contributors have a $500 million goal to make that housing and the support services happen. This week, the city of Austin approved a contract with Integral Care to put up an additional 60 units. We currently operate permanent supported housing. That's a best practice, that's low barrier housing. And we're also currently with Travis County. We have a limited number of sites that we're looking at a contract to put up some additional housing with county ARPA dollars. So that concludes a brief report. I just would like to thank Judge Needles, her leadership with all the local sequential intercept mapping, and her Behavioral Health Criminal Justice Advisory Committee that's so active. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, David. Judge DuBose.
Good morning. I'm going to try and be brief. I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit with these questions because because of COVID and the fact that we're close to the border and on a major highway, our court system has been disrupted hugely. So unfortunately, it has caused a disruption in other parts of the system, which would be our mental health court and just the system's cohesiveness as a whole. However, there are some bright spots, and one is the data collection system that actually was grant funded through JCMH, which has allowed us to keep track of our participants in our mental health system, in our mental health court system, and gives us a centralized place where we can all input data and share information so that the mental health coordinator, the probation officer, the court can all input information so that we can go there and see what's going on with our participants and have that information readily available. So that's been a great addition to our mental health court. With regard to our underutilized resources, I would struggle with that as well. And I thought about, I think one of the things that is underutilized, and it's my fault, is my ability to convene. Judge Spicia would be disappointed in me because that's one of the things that he hammers home constantly is a judge's ability to call people together. And the SIM intercept plan mapping seems like an ideal place where I can use that power to the benefit of our community. And so I'm certainly going to do that. So I thank y'all for coming up with that and making that available to us. And I'm also looking forward to Judge Kaysen's book and information with regard to outpatient treatment. And I will conclude with that. Thank you all.
Judge DuBose, I would love to help you with that intercept mapping, and I'm not disappointed in you.
How could
thank you, Judge. Thanks. Come on down.
Judge Dominguez?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Where do I start? I'll start by saying that, when I first received the email and saw the homework, my reaction was like, really, homework? Which then threw me into a panic. And when I do that, when I get into a panic, I procrastinate and I get existential. And so my questions were, well, what exactly do we mean by innovations? Whose innovations? My innovations, the state's innovation, and underutilized. And anyway, and so that didn't last long. And I've been thinking a lot about it since I received it. And so I came up with a few things. But now, after listening to everybody, first, I want to say thank you to everyone. People that have resonated with me today have been Judge Needles, because and I know I've said this in the past, is I share her frustration that she talked about, especially when it comes to funding. And as I've mentioned before, it's wonderful when people say they support us, but then when the rubber meets the road and we don't get the funding we need to do the important work that we want to do and that we're already doing, it's just really demoralizing. And then Chief Standridge and Major Lee, I am the president of the Major Lee fan club. One of the things I always look forward to in these meetings is to really listen to what our law enforcement partners say, because that is, from where I sit, that is one of the areas where in my community, I find the most resistance. And I know in pockets of the country, that's where we find some of the biggest challenges. And so all that to say is that to have law enforcement partners on this commission who I think are thoughtful, innovative, and who really are passionate about doing some of this work, it's reassuring and it's encouraging. So thank you to both of them. Anyway, and with that, I'll start with this. I don't know if we call it an innovation, but I call it a development that makes me very, very happy. And that is that just this Monday, I received the following email from our Sheriff's Department. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office Region 8 Training Academy is hosting a 40-hour jail mental health officer course February 14th through the 18th. Training will cover communication and de-escalation techniques for mental illness prevalently seen in jail facilities, a review of mood disorders, thought disorders, personality disorders, cognitive disorders, and co-occurring disorders. The student will also be able to apply their skills in scenario-based training, and upon course completion, students can apply for TCOL Jail Mental Health Officer Proficiency Certificate. That just about made my year. So I'm so happy that and I wish I could claim some kind of credit for that, but it's our sheriff and who's I think been doing a lot of the serious work and real committed work. That helps me sort of transition to the next issue, which I had already planned on talking about. And that is that one of the, I think it's underutilized in my community by other judges because we're still trying to educate people, but our LMHA jail liaison, we have a jail liaison from our local mental health authority. She shows up to every, and with Zoom, the benefit is that she gets to show up to every judge's jail docket because we are still doing those via Zoom. And so she's one person in a really large county. And rather than having to run around from one court to another, she just gets to wait till the next jail docket is available. And what she does is really monitors what either the jail, the contract health providers are doing, and what EHN, our local mental health authority, is doing at the jail, and can provide the court, if it's a probation violation, in particular, we want to really consider letting them out, or if there is some serious mental health issues that need to be addressed at a bond hearing. She shows up, provides whatever information. And one of the underutilized, so she's underutilized, I think. I think having her there is, I don't know if it's an innovation, but I know that it's very important, very useful for me. But one of the other things is that she's able to provide every judge at every bond hearing the MARS, which is the Medication Administration Record Sheet, which tells me, has this person been in jail 7 days, 30 days, and what is their medication regimen, and are they taking it, et cetera. And that's become, it's been surprising to me how useful that has been at some of these hearings to sort of, when people hear, oh, Judge Dominguez is the guy that cares about mental health issues. So, I wasn't born yesterday. I know when people are like, oh, by the way, Judge, my client has mental health issues. I'm like, okay, well, tell me about them and how serious are, and how are they being addressed, and have they been addressed in the past, et cetera. I'm going on longer than I want to. The point is that the MARS report is very useful in really assessing the inmates' participation, the inmates' history. We can't predict, but at least we can get a sense of, how serious are they about getting back on their meds and staying on their meds, et cetera. So anyway, that's been something that's been very useful. Our jail mags, we have 24-hour jail magistrates, are fantastic because they're well trained on this issue. They're very good about doing the 1622 assessments immediately and making sure that, if the person needs to be released because of the mental health condition and there's treatment and there's some kind of continuity of care that's put in place immediately, they're very, very good about that. So that's something that, again, I can't take credit for that. I do work with them, but the leadership that we've had with our jail magistrates has been fantastic. And then the only other thing I didn't mention is I'm a judge of the 205th District Court. So I've got my court, I've got jurisdiction in El Paso County, but I also have two small rural counties, Hudspeth and Culberson County. And that is a whole nother beast. In particular, there are no resources. I mean, there are resources, but they're so limited. It's next to none. And one of the big things that's been wonderful is I share jurisdiction out there with Judge Roy Ferguson, and he did a wonderful job of taking on the task of securing funding from the Texas Indigent, I always forget if they're a commission or what they are, but the Texas Indigent folks. And we've set up he set up public defender's office. And that public defender's office in the last 2 years has hired a social worker that works. Obviously, she's supervised medically through one source, but then supervised legally by the public defender's office. And even though we have really very little resources out in those two counties in the jail, she is fantastic about going out and ensuring that the people do get the follow-up they need, do get the medication, medical treatment. And we've really been able, all I can say is the kind of stuff we see out in these small counties is sometimes stuff for the movies in terms of the offenses that people are arrested for. And so to be able to wade through that and really look at the individual and really look at what their mental health needs are, has been really, we've been really been able to make big improvements with this social worker. So, and I didn't even want to do this assignment, but thank you, Christy, or whoever comes up with these assignments. But I've certainly found it very useful to listen to everyone. So thank you all.
Thank you, Judge Dominguez, and never to sweat the homework, because as you can see, it's pretty much free response. So, okay, Judge Carr.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is I'm used to being one of the ones that go first. It's actually quite intimidating to be one of the ones to go last after hearing all the great things that people are out there doing and the many hills we have yet to climb. But my kind of local report is, and I'm sure this is mostly as a result of COVID, we've really, Judge Cassiotti, who is our mental health magistrate, we've really ramped up our hearings. with regard to competency dockets. We're combing and recombing our jail populations, monitoring any positive changes that might make people more eligible for something other than being in the waiting line to go to the state hospital. My mental health court continues to serve as a mentoring program. We have a full panoply of documents that we have amassed, and we're able to give whatever humble assistance that we can give. Remember the case method, copy and steal everything. And there's plenty of other good work and examples going on around the state. We're about 3 months into our drop-off center, and I hear that it's going very well. I have it on my calendar to go visit it here shortly. We have filled a position that was vacant for a while, our mental health coordinator, which will kind of be eyes and ears for the judges in the jail, working with the jail, with the state hospital staff to make sure we're staying on top of who's coming and going and getting those people set expeditiously upon their return. We were one of 3 jurisdictions awarded a comprehensive Bureau of Justice assistance grant that is being administered by the Council of State Governments. We've had a lot of our policies and procedures reviewed, but we're slugging through it again, and we're gonna have a lot of good expert input and advice on what we're doing here locally. We have we're going to run our own local mental health seminar for defense attorneys here either in the summer or in the fall, as we've been trying to do once a year, and we continue to operate our enhanced mental health services docket, which is a docket that is for low-level offenders that are primarily mental health, substance abuse, just pretty much every issue you can think of, homelessness. Not everyone buys into it, but if you keep bringing them to the water often enough, it's surprising how many of them will finally stop and take a drink and will agree to be admitted into services. So that's what we have going on, and I yield.
Terrific. Okay, and we have Sean Grove.
Hi, everybody. One of the resources that I want to talk about this time is not the risk and needs assessment, which I think I talk about every time, but it's something that Christy Taylor had emailed us about, and that's about how we're bringing TBRI practices through the Texas model of reform that we are implementing currently, but particularly in our medical services. And so hopefully when we can get back together in person, I can bring Dr. Scott Lepore, our Director of Medical Services, to describe how we are fundamentally changing the way that we provide these services to the youth by using neuroscience, by using interpersonal neurobiology to meet the needs of these kids that have these, incredible trauma backgrounds. As a little primer, I do want to talk about a little bit of that. And of course, Scott Lepore is the expert, but using the basic TBRI principles, empower, connect, and correct, we're looking at how we can change the modality of providing these services to the youth by the caregiver. And so early on in Camille King's tenure, we did something as simple as revamp the menu, right? By taking a look at the nutrition that we're providing the youth, by providing youth water bottles, which a lot of folks in a correctional setting were weary of to begin with, but it's a water bottle, right? Youth can have it. I can't sit through a meeting without having water or coffee nearby. But also changing our 16-hour schedule to a 14-hour schedule so that the youth could have more time to sleep. Really focusing on felt safety, on transitions when youth are going for meals or to the med line to get any of their medications, by focusing on the caregiver being mindful with the youth, having a calm presence, being respectful towards the youth, walking the youth through what is happening, what needs to happen, the type of care, the type of medical treatment that they'd be providing. And all of this is with the end goal of increasing not just the efficiency of our medical services, but also the the satisfaction of the youth in their treatments. And so very excited to hopefully when we get in person, like I said, bring Dr. Scott Lepore in. As far as unutilized resources, since he's not here today, I'm gonna say that Dr. Scott Lepore is an underutilized resource. What we want to do with our Texas model is not only instill this trauma-informed care and corrections in our state secure facilities, but also where they are needed throughout the communities. And so if you would like to get in touch with Dr. Lepore, just reach out and we want to increase the ability for us to provide any training or any information sharing that we are working on with our partners in the juvenile probation departments at the counties. That's all I've got. Thanks a lot, Justice Blaine.
Terrific. Thank you, Sean. Okay, Tim Bray.
Thank you. And thank you, Justice Bland and Judge Hervey, for the opportunity to participate on this group. So I may be one of the only people who are glad that we're meeting virtually today, because y'all may want to throw things at me and the chiefs may want to detain me. One of the unfortunate underutilized resources we have right now are the state hospitals. And that's a reality. Unfortunately, that's a reality that is, I'm working very hard to make short-lived because I would much rather be overutilized than underutilized. But unfortunately, staffing is creating that underutilization. So if you have any great nursing colleagues, professionals, anyone who would be interested in working for the state hospitals, please send them our way. We're working very hard to staff our positions. In fact, over the past year, we are down about 1,300 staff members. As you all know, that there's a great competition for and need for nurses, nursing assistants. We are struggling to retain housekeeping staff, food service staff, as you know, many people pay increased wages in the community, whether that's Starbucks or Walmart or wherever. We're seeing that across the state. And so we're addressing salaries. We're offering recruitment bonuses to get staff members in. And so I'm hopeful that the efforts that we're making will increase the numbers of staff and that we can start to increase the number of people that we can safely serve in the state hospitals. So, but one of the other things that we have, and one of the other innovations that we've implemented in the state hospitals on the forensic side is building some focused leadership. And many of you know Dr. Felix Torres. He's been working with Dr. Jenny Simpson and JCMH on the Eliminate the Wait campaign. He's our chief of forensic medicine. We've built a focused team on the forensic side and also a continuity of care team to start really digging in and actively manage our wait list. So for individuals who are waiting for admission into a state hospital, we've really done a much better job of managing of gathering information and managing that wait list. Anyone who is decompensating to a point where we need to expedite their admission, educating jails, educating all of our community partners on what resources are out there that they have access to engage that person while they're waiting for an admission into a state hospital. And so we have actually been able to divert people off of our wait list with some of those efforts. And in fact, we've partnered with Sonia Gaines and her group, and of course, Jenny Simpson, the state forensic director, on a jail in reach learning collaborative. This is largely an educational opportunity for us to get into the jails and talk to them about potential treatment and opportunities to treat individuals who are waiting for an admission, so that if they can get a person started on an appropriate course of medication, for example, there may come a point before they're admitted to the state hospitals that we can do a reassessment of their competency, and if competent, divert them off and away from the state hospitals. Or if they do still need a state hospital bed, they'll be, in a much better place for a shorter length of stay at the hospital before they can go back into the criminal justice system or divert to a different, more appropriate place. And then, of course, as Commissioner Onken alluded to, a great resource has just, we cut the ribbon on the John S. Dunn Behavioral Sciences Center. That is a state hospital in Houston that we are partnering with the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston to operate for us. It's a state-of-the-art facility. It is really going to be wonderful. We're going to have 164 state-supported beds. Those are for forensic and civil patients. There will be additional beds at the facility that UT Health will operate, specialized research beds and also specialized services as well. So it's a great opportunity. We're also designing right now in collaboration with UT Southwestern, the new Dallas State Hospital. And that's going to be an amazing facility up in Dallas as well. We've got the construction funds have already been appropriated for that. So hopefully we will have some smooth sailing from now until through construction on that. So again, thank you for letting me be part of the group.
Well, and welcome. Dr. Alameda.
Okay, very briefly, because I know it's noon. And I tend to go first, and going last is a lot more challenging because, what can I say that hasn't already been said? So couple of things. One is the 1622 process. As you know, we've been working on this in Fort Bend County, and we might not have all the bells and whistles, but I was just looking at our 2021 data, and we were able to file 99.4% of those assessments in the timely manner, which means within 96 hours of when they're ordered. So that's pretty impressive. Now, it's still a little manual process, and, we're not automated, but that's great. And a lot of work, a lot of collaboration. The other thing too that I wanted to mention about, because there's been a lot of discussion about ARPA and working with Commissioners Court. Of course, I'm the Director of Behavioral Health Services, so I report directly to Commissioners Court. So we actually have been able to leverage ARPA funds for the expansion of our CIT, for expansion of psychological services to support the courts, even for the expansion of clinical services to support the mental health of first responders, which is, again, a very important thing. How do we take care of those that are serving our community? So, and last but not least, we actually we're able to leverage ARPA funds to support our work with young children, which Judge Helms is very familiar with. We've had an infant toddler initiative for many years because we know we need to start early if we're actually going to do something about this cradle to prison pipeline. So actually the county actually has a child development specialist, which is now funded. So that's just really exciting work. We also have some other grants that are really focusing on, how do we take this brain science at a county level and put it into practice and policy. And several other things, but I know about the time. We have a grant from the Department of Justice, the Office of Juvenile Justice Delinquency Prevention, where we're actually looking at developing an app that can be used for law enforcement to help identify youth with mental illness and co-occurring mental illness and substance abuse and connect them to services. So I can talk about more of that later. And underutilized data and technology. At a county level, we have that. We've developed that, for example, obviously for vaccine management and testing management. How do we use that for our criminal justice, for our courts? And the other underutilized is we actually have jail space. Orphan County, we actually have jail space. So we are looking at, and have had several discussions about developing a jail-based competency restoration, and excited to move forward on that. Okay, that was very quick. I thank you all.
All right, and Lee Pearson is back, and so wanted to give him an opportunity just to give an announcement.
Thank you, Justice Bland. Sorry to everybody for I didn't get to the meeting till about 10 after because of 11, because my boss had me cover another meeting this morning, so my apologies. I'll be brief since it is past 12. One innovation that we have, well, first, we're about to open our Dallas Deflection Center that we've been working on a couple of years, where all the criminal trespass cases will be deflected. We're shooting for end of March, very 1st of April. The pandemic has slowed that down quite a bit, but it hasn't stopped us. And I think end of March, 1st of April is definitely going to be a solid opening date on that. So we're very happy for that. An innovation that we have that I have found is working with the mental health division. And it's not many police departments yet, but I have a couple who have mental health teams who will reach out to me via email, basically at the time they're making an arrest, to let me know why they're arresting the person, what's going on, the mental health history that they have. So when I open my email every morning, I can start reaching out to the public defender's office, mental health division, the defense bar if someone's been assigned, and we can start trying to get assessments for an individual who's coming to jail. And I mean, we're instant on those cases and able to start evaluating as soon as a case is filed to get the person in the mental health division, start getting them services, and start looking at what we can do. A couple of our cities have really utilized that, and our partnerships with the defense bar and the public defender's office really make getting those things and getting them done quickly very, very effective. I'm going to reach out to them and see what I could do to get with some of the other cities to start getting a heads up. Hey, this person is coming in. Here's what's going on. If an officer's involved as a victim, they let me know kind of what they would like to see happen on the case so we don't have that lag time. So I think that's an innovation that has started last year, and I hope it continues to grow and grow. Something that's underutilized, which we're working on, is data, being able to compile what we're doing. We have no recidivism studies and no kind of information as to what we're doing that's working. We are currently working with a psychologist. We just got all the parts in place to start doing a study of our pretrial intervention cases from 19 through 21. So we'll be able to see what's working, what's not working. We're breaking that down by treatment provider, diagnosis, zip code, age, race, sex, the whole 9 yards. So we're going to have a good picture of what's working and what's not. We're also getting a new case management system that's just for our restorative justice division, which it's just the mental health division, which is allowing us to put all of that information and run reports and see, if someone with schizophrenia needs something different, then we're going to be able to kind of manage those things. So I'm excited to see what those studies and what the case management systems show. And with that, I'll keep it brief, and that's the end of my report. Thank you. And sorry for being late.
No, it's great. Thank you. That concludes our commissioners' reports, and we're already a little bit past the noon hour. But I wanted to turn it over to Judge Hervey if she had any closing thoughts, and we look forward to seeing all of you in person in May.
Now, I just wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your great work, your attention, your willingness to participate in as many things as possible to help the system. And I'll look forward to seeing you in May.